Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight our guest is Andrew Hopkins. He's a spiritualist medium, but he's also the author of Haunting on Park Road, which is a journey through his childhood experiences that shaped him, I'm sure, in a haunted house on Park Road. And I know he's in England. We'll get the town and all that. I haven't read the book. It's free on Kindle. I was going to get it, but my wife is a big user of Kindle and has all the books filled up there, and that's my fault. I could have kept forgetting to ask her to take a book out so I could read it, but I will. I want to read this book. He's also got a second one out, next chapter, after Park Road, so like everything that happened after that. My sound might be a little weird tonight. I'm still working with the settings. I had a, let me check this here, because I feel like I'm a little hot. Oh, there we go. Now I messed it up. Oh, go down. See, I'm working with a new app here. Let me turn that volume down there. Nope, wrong way. There we go. Yeah, I'm just getting it figured out. Thanks to my son for helping me figure it out. That the app I used for 6 years, it got me started doing radio. It's called Boss Jock, and Apple took it off the store. Won't let me use it even. So I had to get a whole new app. It's called Backpack. Basically, on the road podcasting thing. It's what I had to use. I know technical stuff. So if it sounds a little weird, I'm still figuring it out, but I feel like the volume's hot. I'll try to adjust it as we go tonight. But our guest is Andrew Hopkins, spiritualist medium, author of Haunting on Park Road. We got a lot of stuff to get to in the World Wide Web of Weird, as always. I'm just hoping Rob gets here. Maybe I'm delaying a little bit because I want Rob to show up. I don't know where he's at, but if not, I will run it myself. I'm a little rusty at it, but I can definitely do it. And of course, we'll open up the phone lines later in the show. Now, Andrew Hopkins is a spiritualist medium, but he's not doing readings tonight. Now, if you want some advice on your situation on a house, a little insight, maybe. But he's not doing readings. I know that, just so you guys know. But we will take your phone calls later in the show. We got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get rolling on into it. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest, Andrew Hopkins, will join us after the World Wide Web of Weird. Like I said, I'm trying to get the audio on here right. It's like, it's not right there. Let's lower that. I guess it didn't hit to me. I've been doing sound tests, and I still don't think it's right. I'm still trying to adjust. This happens when you do like a radio show for 6 years and a webcast, whatever. You get used to certain things, certain settings, certain apps and equipment you use, and when it's gone, it's like throws you all off. So I'm trying to get used to that. Hang in there with me that tonight. But I do have my beautiful co-host with us. You know, she's always here Sunday night. I love her to death. Is Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing well, thank you, Jason.
Excited to talk about some ghost stuff, a haunted experience by Andrew Hopkins tonight. We've done a lot of psychic stuff, a lot of psychic development, a lot of past lives before, and we did one not long ago, I don't think, of a good haunted story. So I'm like ready to get back into it and talk about it. I want Rob to be here because he's got some haunted stuff going on, man. I'd like to get Andrew's opinion on it. We were talking about it before the show. Rob always has the weird and the freaky with him. So we need him here for the World Wide Web of Weird. Where are you, Rob? No, Rob? All right, well, Rob's not here, so I will have to run the World Wide Web of Weird myself. So let's go ahead and run the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, I thought I'd start off with this one. I've been seeing I even had people at my work talking about this today. Lobster diver says he was swallowed by a humpback whale near Cape Cod. Literally, a guy swallowed by a whale. How weird can you get with that, right? Biblical weird there, right? For those listening on the Paranormal Radio Network, we are a webcast. You can listen, as I'm trying to get the volume right here, on our Paranormal Radio app. But if you want to watch, we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, where you can see videos and see photos we share, and I got to get those up. I got to get my share screen up. Here we go. Share screen. Yes. All right. So I'm really rusty on this. This is why it's nice to have Rob. Where are you at, Rob? I know. Okay, first up, lobster diver says he was swallowed by a humpback whale near Cape Cod. Michael Packard was swimming near Herring Cove Beach when he was almost eaten alive by a whale. His name's not Jonah, but this Cape Cod man sure has something in common with the biblical figure now. Commercial lobster diver Michael Packard was going about his business off the coast of Provincetown, Massachusetts, when he was swallowed whole by a humpback whale, trapped inside its gullet for nearly a minute before being coughed back up, according to a report. All of a sudden, I felt this huge shove, and the next thing I knew, it was completely black, Picard told the outlet. I could sense I was moving, and here comes an ad right in front of me. I could sense I was moving, and I could feel the whale was squeezing with muscles in his mouth. That's got to be some pressure. Stunned, his first thought was that he'd be snapped up by a great white shark and was done for. Picard told local CBS News affiliate that he thought to himself, "That's it, I'm gonna die." I was completely inside. It was completely black. Excuse me. I thought to myself, there's no way I'm getting out of here. I'm done. I'm dead. All I could think of was my boys. They are 12 and 15 years old. But when he realized he could feel no teeth, he began struggling and felt the whale shaking its head in discomfort, he said. Within 40 seconds, the massive mammal spit him back out into the ocean. I saw light. He started throwing his head side to side, and the next thing I knew, I was outside. My first thought was, I can't believe I got out of that situation. My second thought was for how injured I was. His boarding pal, Josiah Mayo, saw water spraying as the sea creature surfaced and Picard was ejected, the Cape Cod paper reported. He plucked Picard out of the sea and rushed him to the hospital where he was treated for soft tissue damage to his leg. Amazingly, Picard said he feels just fine after his remarkable Pinocchio-style getaway. I'm good overall, he said. An expert said the whale was likely a juvenile, may have swallowed Picard accidentally, not seeing the diver while his mouth was open wide to scoop up little fish. Based on what was described, this would be a mistake, an accident on the part of the humpback, said Joke Robbins, director of humpback whale studies at the Center of Coastal Studies in Provincetown. It's not something I have heard of happening before, so many things would have to happen in the end path of this feeding whale. So, I don't know, good luck. He survived, but kind of unlucky that it happened. All right, next article. I should check and see. Is Rob here? No, Rob. Okay, back to the article. Where did I go with it? No. All right, I had it. There you go. Bring it up. There you go. All right, ghost photographed at park bench in a haunted park. Let me get my notes up on that. It's hard to do both. All right, come on now. And my notes go hazy. In 1 second, when I get my article to come back up. All right, some unexplained mysteries here. Ghost photographed on park bench, haunted park bench, Pasir Ris Park, and in particular, Sangui Api Swamp area, is certainly no stranger to the unexplained, thanks to stories of a type of female vampire in local folklore called a Pontianax. I'm not sure if I got that right. In this particular case, a woman named Myra had been out running in the park one evening when she noticed what appeared to be a long-haired woman sitting alone on a bench in the dark. Why was this woman just sitting by herself, she wrote on Facebook. She was just staring at the lake. The area was very dark, and no one else was around. Thinking this strange, she snapped a photograph and carried on running. As she did so, she recalled hearing someone utter her name, almost like a whisper in her ear, even though nobody was there. I had goosebumps on the hair, and the hair on the back of my neck stand straight up. I know it wasn't a human because there was no one else around. When she later posted her photograph and story on Facebook, other users noted that the strange woman did not appear to have any legs or feet in the area beneath the bench. Yeah, well, that could just be where that's off to the side. I mean, her legs could be. I mean, it could have been just some lady sitting on a bench, but she did a ghostly name. I don't know. I saw this was interesting. I wish I had more story on, like, the history of this bench or why they think there's a vampire spirit of a woman there. But it's in Singapore, so who knows? What's up?
City folklore. If it's a city folklore or if there's a reason behind it.
I can't say the name of what they called it. A Pontianax. This is supposed to be a female vampire.
Interesting.
I don't know. It does have the creepy look. All right, we go on to the next one. Here, let's see. The next one, we got the Stanley Hotel. We got a ghost photo from there. Let me just double check to see if Rob is back. No. Okay. Ghost photographed at Colorado's notorious haunted Stanley Hotel. We've been getting a lot of these lately from Stanley. Stanley seems to be active. It's like one of my bucket list places to go investigate. And I don't think they let you do that much anymore. A tour is taking part in a ghost tour and it's just ghost tours. I mean, really investigate. Ghost tour at the Colorado's notoriously haunted Stanley Hotel believes that she may have snapped a photograph of a spirit lingering in a window. The eerie image, which can be seen here, was reportedly taken by Kim Kimberly of Texas when she visited the spooky location with some friends last month. The hotel, which has famously inspired the setting for Stephen King's classic The Shining, is said to be home of a variety of spirits and feature nightly tours for those hoping to catch a glimpse of a ghost. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. We know that. It's also often the case with ghost photos. Kimberly did not notice the anomaly until she later looked at her pictures from the tour and was astonished by what she saw. There was no one in the windows when I took the photos. My friends were taking photos as well, and they did not see it either. Noting that some people have suggested that the oddity is merely a trick of light and shadow created by curtains, Kimberly expressed skepticism at that explanation, arguing that they are the exact same in every window. They are see-through. If it was curtains, what is the dark area that looks like hair and the skin tone color? That can be a shadow. Or that can't be a shadow. Kimberly also dismissed the possibility that perceiving the figure could have been a mannequin, posting that she would have noticed such a thing in the window when she took the picture. I could buy that. Now I have like I did a zoom in of it. Should be the next one. Oh, now mine's. How do I zoom in on this? Here we go. That's as far as I'm going to zoom in. I mean, it does kind of look like a blank face and hair, but it really could be just anything that they didn't notice at the time, but in the picture looks like a person.
Yeah.
You know? Just checking it out one more time. Nope.
Oh, you know what? It looks like it's the flag, the bottom part of the flag that turns on my computer screen that makes it look like the blank space on the face.
That's what I was wondering. It could just be a number of things coming together.
The white stripe makes it look like
Yeah.
a face, and then the dark stripes is the hair.
Like I said, it just could be
And that's the curtain.
number of factors coming in. Yeah, the curtain, all that. I don't know. Not to be too skeptical, but, you know. All right. Next one's going to be a video. Hopefully this plays. Let me close this. I always get nervous when I get to the video part. Here we go. All right, let me pause this, though, if it's going to play. Oh, no, not a video. Never mind. I just got a screenshot of it. Florida man. Nothing against this Florida man. This one is a UFO witness. Florida man is convinced that he saw something. This is from Coast to Coast. I got it. Saw something out of this world when he spotted a pair of puzzling objects hovering in the night sky earlier this week. According to a local media report, the strange sighting occurred on Tuesday evening in the city of Cape Coral as witness Jose Cardega was heading home from work. What would normally be a routine drive at the end of the day turned into an unforgettable experience where he noticed a particular light in the sky that began to separate in two and then came back together. While alone, it's fairly fantastic, Cardega says that it was only a precursor to a second UFO that he saw 5 minutes later. This odd object, he said, appeared to be a black diamond with lights on the side and one red light towards the center, not all the way to the back of the craft. You know what that sounds like? I'd have to ask Terry, but if I remember right, it kind of sounds similar to the diamond-like UFO him and his friend saw when they were in the Air Force before the incident at Devil's Den. Stunned by what he was seeing, Cardega recalls thinking to himself, that's a UFO, that's nothing from here. The sight proved to be so shocking that the man actually stopped his car in the middle of the road to fully observe the anomalous object. It was right overhead, floating over us, basically, Cardega marveled. There was no sound, it was magnificent. Fortunately, he managed to overcome his awestruck state and snapped a few photographs of the second UFO seen in the, you're seeing here. What exactly the object might have been is yet to be determined, but Cardega appears to have already reached a conclusion, musing that right now in my heart, I believe is definitely something from another planet. There's a news segment on this they did in whatever the local town for this I saw, and there's a lot. There's a lot more to it than this. I should have found a better article than Coast to Coast, but he had a number of weird experiences with it there, and they had somebody else check it out, and they're like, "There's no way this is a drone or an aircraft." So he saw something. A lot more of that going on, and we got UFO disclosure coming out. What, the 25th? You know,
we're not getting. I thought they already said they're not going to. Not anytime.
Oh, the rumors are we're not going to get much.
I heard that they said forget it at all. 2022.
Yeah, I know. Luis Elizondo says he thinks it's going to be very watered down. Oh, here's the other photograph. There was a second photograph I had of that. What he saw. Here we go. There's like 3 photographs in one here. When something makes that light like that, you know, it's like streaking light. It's moving fast.
Yeah.
And it's up there. All right, next one's a video, though. Let me get that. All right, let's hope this one works. Oh, but let me pause it. All right, a photographer captures drone video of bizarre, fast-moving UFO. Photographer and filmmaker James Cowley, or is it Cowley? Cowley? Was well Cawley was well aware of the recent interest in UFOs as he watched 2 ovular-shaped objects fly quickly through the screen of his DJI Mavic 2 Pro drone while filming the sunset in the Moab desert area of Utah. The objects were obviously enough that Cowley, I don't know if you say Cowley. Immediately turned after viewing the second one. Within this month's release of UFOs, government highly anticipated report on unidentified flying objects. The buzz surrounding UFOs is at all-time high. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. We know that. But this is interesting. Go ahead. I'll show the air. It's hard to see this first. It moves so fast. He does a slowdown of this. Look at it. It's like a cylindrical object of some kind. It almost seems like, or it just seems that way for how fast it's going. It's hard to say. It doesn't seem like it'd be very big. But it's sure not a bird. No way going that fast.
Very fast.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you what that was. Drone? I don't know. Like military drone. That was going like super fast, not a commercial drone.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next one. I'm gonna get done with this early. Darn it. All right. This one, lately, what is it with former presidents, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama? They're just chatting away about UFOs now. Just chatting away. They both have opinions on UFOs. This one I got from the Daily Wire. Of course, they're a conservative outlet. Former President Bill Clinton thinks aliens could well exist. The truth is, we never proved one, but there are things flying around up there that we haven't fully identified yet. Clinton 74 claimed on Tuesday, live with Kelly and Ryan. Keep in mind there are billions of galaxies in an ever-expanding universe, Clinton told Kelly Ripa and Ryan. I mean, you can't even get your mind around the sheer number of things that are out there. No one knows, but I think the probability is that there's something you would call life somewhere else. A few weeks ago, former President Barack Obama said on the Late Show that the U.S. is modern UFO sightings. He also talked about, like, us forming a whole new religion. Yeah, he's had a lot to say. And it's like, when did you guys talk about this while you're in office? Oh, now it's cool. Now it's cool to talk about UFOs, huh?
A new religion. Now that's a new one for me.
You know, I saw an Ancient Aliens episode once about the presidents, and they made like a comment like, more Republican presidents have had access to knowledge about UFOs than Democrat presidents, it's theorized. And maybe there's truth to that. I mean, you know, you look at Jimmy Carter, who tried to look into UFOs and got shot down by a Republican at the time that ran the CIA, George Bush. Shot him down pretty hard. The rumors are like, you don't have a need to know as a president, and so he never got that information. And he couldn't keep his campaign promise, or he told him enough that it scared him out that he couldn't talk about it in public. I don't know. I mean, Ronald Reagan seemed to have a lot of knowledge about it in some sense. What he did know, I mean, I don't know if it was from the government. I think he had an interest from way before he was president. They had his campaign people had to keep him from talking about UFOs when he ran for president. Because they were afraid. They were afraid of the stigma, you know. Look at Kucinich. Wasn't it Kucinich? It was like 2008. Was running for the primaries and president, and somebody brought up that he was some actress, I can't remember who, famous actress he was friends with, had a biography that talked about his seeing a UFO, and he admitted, yes, that happened, and he was totally laughed at. I remember Chris Matthews, that jerk off. I'm sorry, I hate Chris Matthews. Totally like joking on him on a segment where he was interviewing another governor, another Democratic governor about that, who also stuck up for Kucinich on that, you know. But, you know, that now things have changed. Now it's all cool to talk about UFOs. It's just the latest thing for presidents and politicians to put their 2 cents in. And they don't know crap. And that's what I always thought about the Clintons. When they tried to look into it when he was in the administration, they sell information. They love information. And it was one piece they would not get. Not if it's so buried deep. They wanted to know, because, boy, that information would be valuable. I know. Conspiracy. All right, let's get to this last one. I wanted to talk about this one. I'm glad I got about 5 minutes to talk about this one, because this happened it's on the 18th. It'll be the 42nd anniversary. And I did the math really easily because it was June 18th, 1979. And I just turned 42 on the 10th. You know, I was born in 1979. And this is when this happened. And the Black Vault published this UFO case of Marsilio Cicini. I don't know if you say his last name. I'm totally butchering it. But it's a historical case. I've seen these photos before. This is one of them here. I got a couple. This isn't the best one, though. I'll get to it. Today we present a historical case. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because everybody talks about all this stuff that they've shown the last few years with the UFOs, that this could be other governments' technology. Well, that doesn't count for all the witness testimony that's gone back 70 years or more, or way more than that. But at least military aspect-wise, 70 years. Modern military.
Exactly.
Right. So today we present a historical case of Italian UFO case that happened from a military flight in 1979. A case that still today makes the public debate and divide, but we look beyond and trust the testimony of Cicini, C-E-C-C-O-N-I. I'm totally butchered that. On June 18th, 1979, the then pilot Marshal Giancarlo Ciansani, born in 1933 Florence, was returning from a photographic survey carried out on the Ligurian Apennines. I don't know if I'm saying that right either. He was flying over the area between Rovigo and Colli di Abano Terme when he received by radio from the control tower of the military airport, I don't know how to say that either, an invitation to connect with an air base out of Istria, whose radar had signaled an unidentified flying object approximately on the vertical Quinto di Treviso, I'm totally butchering that, in the immediate vicinity of aforementioned airport. So it's near this airport. He belonged to the 14th Group, the two-fighter bomb reconnaissance wing of the Italian Air Force on board the G-91, are equipped with a number of cameras and equipment. With these, in fact, he had carried out a photographic surveys he had been in charge of. He had then arranged for ground control body staff to go and identify the object detected by radar. At the moment the sign occurred to him that it could be a solar UFO. Then he realized it was something different. A solar UFO is like I'm guessing like a optical illusion. The day was beautiful, and he soon realized that the black spot had very different characteristics. It appeared to him in the shape of a dull black fuel tank, and on its slightly flattened upper part, he noticed a fairing of, I don't understand this part, I read this earlier, 2 mustaches. What would mustaches? This was underlying something clear and white, which in this opinion was a kind of milky white dome, so as it's shaped like mustaches. The characteristics of the surface did not allow refraction of light. The object appeared to have a length about 6 to 8 meters and a width about 3 meters. At the time, the close encounter with the unusual aircraft, this was on vertical of the military airport at a height about 1,300 meters. Having made contact with the UFO, he took a first series of photographs from the front camera, and after made a very short period of time, it made a noose maneuver that consists of reversing its course. He noticed that the object was still in the same position so that he could take another series of photographs using the side camera this time. He understood it was something having a certain rigidity, and he deducted it was from the fact that when the plane approached him at a speed of 300 knots, the object did not suffer from any turbulence. The pilot had the opportunity to see UFOs solar on other occasions. However, they felt turbulence caused by the nearby passage of plane, and their movement could last even a quarter of an hour. I don't understand what that part is. But let's get to the pictures. So this is, of course, grainy photographs, but pretty good for that time period. This is my favorite one right here. You can see the airstrip down there. This thing was right over it. Tic Tac UFO, except that it's black. Let's see if I can move up. Look at that.
So that black spot, is that all windows on the front? Or is that
I don't think he said anything about windows. He said like a mustache thing around it or something like that. I was trying to understand the article. I think it's translated.
It reminds me of like a security ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those camera.
But my point is, people, military, there's other instances I could point out, modern day military sightings and photographs that were taken. A lot of them are foreign militaries, not ours, because we button that stuff down, but some of the stuff got out from other countries. Photographs of things like this back then. I mean, yeah, the quality of the camera footage the tech wasn't the greatest, but they still got pictures. I think this is pretty good. That means it can't be future tech. I'm sorry, they weren't that far ahead of time. We really screwed if a foreign government had this stuff in 1979.
Yeah.
So that whole argument just does not fly with me.
No.
But you're going to hear it a lot. You're going to hear it a lot, and that's why I've said we're going to get a lot of nothing probably from this UFO disclosure report.
It's all going to be blacked out. It'll have the date and then like thank you at the bottom.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a big write-off. See, they've had all this accumulating for years. People, I mean, look, they were talking about storming Area 51. And now they can be like, look, we addressed the problem. We gave you everything we got. Everything we got. And then they can just say, see, we did. But people just don't understand the history that goes back when it comes to the military and UFOs. This stuff is buried deep within the military. There's high-ranking generals have no idea about it. I think it's within family members. Steven Spielberg, I always talk about this miniseries, Taken. He shows the way that they hold it secret is it's passed down from father to his son's daughter that are running these secret programs. And at one point, they get totally taken out or shut down. And when they come back, hardly anybody in the military knows anything about them. They don't even know about their projects. Only a few do. So it's like all the work they did and all the secret stuff they had was all just, forgotten about because it was so secret that these people didn't even have lives anymore that were involved in it. So that's what we could be faced with. We're running already. Now I'm running late. See, got talking. So we got to get running into our commercial break. Nope, that's the wrong. See, now I'm not used to my soundboard. That is the wrong song. See, I am not used to my soundboard. It's a new soundboard. But we will be back with our guest, Andrew Hopkins, author of Haunting on Park Road and Next Chapter After Park Road. We're going to be talking about his experience in growing up in a haunted house and his experience as a spiritualist medium. I really want to talk about that as well. Like I said, he won't be doing readings tonight, but we will take your phone calls later in the show. If you want to ask him for advice in a situation you're having, or tell us about your own personal experience growing up in a haunted home or living in one now, I'd love to hear it. Rob, if he comes on, I want him to talk about the stuff that's been going on in his house. This has been kind of weird and crazy stuff. But we got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead. We got to get going to this short commercial break, but we'll be right back.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream. with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do voices from beyond the cold case files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It is called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Certificate A. Now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The international chart-topping, haunted horror of Haverfordwest has been described as terrifyingly real, a must-read, shocking and chilling brilliance, genuinely worrying, utterly frightening. Don't read before bed. Described as one of the spookiest writers out there, best-selling author G.L. Davies presents Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest, the true paranormal account that is shocking the world. Dare you enter? Dare you read? Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, and wherever books are sold. Pray you never have to live there.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe, 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Andy Hopkins. Andy Hopkins is a spiritualist medium and a paranormal investigator. He became aware of spirit during his early childhood and grew up in a haunted house, a house that paved the way to his life in the world of the paranormal. He has investigated many haunted locations, both at home in Great Britain, across the United Kingdom, and Europe. As a medium, he has performed over thousands of investigations in some of the most haunted places, from asylums to castles and private residences. His passion is sharing his experiences from the horrifying encounters he had in the darkest of places to the truly blessed and beautiful interactions he's had with spirit. And he believes it is his mission to help others to see what is beyond the veil between our world and the spirit world. When asked why he shares his experiences, he states that he believes that through experiences like his own, people can see the truth in their own experiences and seek comfort in knowing we live on after death. And that's what we've been talking about a lot about this when it comes to psychics and medium, the hereafter, reincarnation, all these aspects, because you know what, it kind of concerns us all, because you know what, we're all going to die. And let's hope we don't end up becoming ghosts in a place. But we've also, a lot of us, I know many of you, have lived in haunted homes or had these experiences, and some of them can be very dark and very sinister, and you have no one to talk to. So it's great when people like Andy come out and share their experiences. And I want to hear from you guys later tonight about your experiences. We will open up the phone lines, but we got a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get to our guest. Man, I got to get this whole audio thing set up. It's all my fade outs are awful. I can't nitpick like that. Welcome to the show, Andy. It's nice to have you on the show for the first time.
Thanks for having me on. It's my pleasure.
Now, like I said, I didn't get to read the book. That's on my bad, because I saw it was free with Kindle Unlimited, which I have, but my wife has like all the books in there, and I kept forgetting to ask her to take a book out to read, but I will. I want to read this book. You know, I've been a paranormal investigator since 2008, but I've had lots of experiences all my life. Yeah. And, you know, so I'm a big believer, so I do the show, and I love hearing a good haunted house story. But, you know, for you, it kind of, more than that, it's changed your life. So I don't know where you want to start with this journey of yours.
Yeah, well, at the beginning, really, I mean, no, I never wanted to be a ghost hunter. You know, I never envisioned myself being somebody that speaks to the dead. I never even when I was younger, I never even realized it was a thing, you know. But I think our experiences change us, you know, our experiences lead us where we're supposed to go. And it just so happened that when my parents split, I moved in, me and my mum, my brother and my sister, we moved into this house. And I remember the day we moved in, it just seemed like a huge house. It was nothing any different than every other house on the road, you know. It was just a mid-terrace house, and there was this entryway sort of to go to the back garden. I remember that seemed pretty ominous. It just sort of went on forever, and it was just dark, and I almost remember kind of shivering looking at it. But
how old were you? When
I was about 3 or 4 when I moved in there, and the memories are still really kind of strong in my head. But even sort of going into the house, you know, it looked massive to me just because I was a kid. And it was kind of soon after that I had my first experience there, and it wasn't an unpleasant experience. I remember it being freezing cold one night, and I was trying to get warm up, my covers up over my head, and I was just drawn. Do you ever get kind of moments where for some reason you just look behind you look to the side of you, almost like you've got eyes? You know,
you're being watched. It's the feeling of being watched.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just, I looked over and there was this old lady standing there, and she wasn't scary. She wasn't like you see in the movies, and she was just sort of glaring at me. She was smiling. She looked warm. She looked inviting. She was kind of glowing, and I just started smiling, and she kind of made me laugh, and then she just kind of went. And when I said to my mum the next morning, I said, "Well, who's the lady in my room?" And she was like, "Well, what lady?" I said, "The old lady in my room." She was there. She smiled at me, and you know, and she's like, "Well, there wasn't an old lady in your room." And I said, "Well, there was." And she says, "Well, you must have been dreaming." And I said, "I know when I'm dreaming. I wasn't dreaming." And a couple of days later, she showed me this newspaper clipping. It had this lady on in the middle, and there was a birthday cake, and there was these people around her. And I said, "That's her. What was she doing in there? What was she doing in my room?" And she just said, "Well, she couldn't have been because she died."
That's not what you want to hear.
Yeah, I just sort of went, "Oh." I didn't understand, but
well, you were four.
I think, yeah,
right?
Yeah, and I think what it is, I didn't know that there was a different. I didn't know that this wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't realize that this wasn't how it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, like 4 years old, you're just learning what the world is.
Yeah.
I didn't live in a haunted house, but
No.
I had an experience I always say, one of the reasons I have this like green floating background behind me is because it reminds me of what I first saw. My first real, I know, was a paranormal experience. I was about 4 or 5 with my cousin Phil, and we saw a green floating head fly through the room screaming. I could hear it screaming heat in. It's a long story, but I know I saw it. I never let go of it, and I had a witness.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was 4 or 5. I realized anything's possible. Ghostbusters could be real. It opened me up to that possibility.
Yeah, no. I think it's important to hold on to those things, because I was speaking to somebody yesterday actually, and they said, "Well, why didn't you really kind of say anything when you were younger?" And it was all a taboo.
Right.
If you saw something, you were kind of looked at like you were a little bit crazy. You belonged in one of these padded cells. I remember.
Or as a child, you're just imaginative. It's just his imagination.
You just, it's an imaginary friend. But then I asked the question, well, how many people's imaginary friends are actually imaginary? I think that more people have experiences than they let on about and that they even realize. I've walked down the street sort of, any time of the day, and there's somebody walking up ahead of me, and then all of a sudden they disappear. I'm not saying that it's all paranormal, but it makes you kind of question: is this a glimpse of something that we should, over the veil? So, yeah, I mean, I think that we all should hold on to those experiences, no matter how small, no matter how massive. We can need to hold on to them, because otherwise, people can be afraid to say what they're seeing. If you get what I mean?
Yeah. Now, I want to give spoilers away. And not reading the book, I won't do it. It'll be all on you. But I do want to get into some of the experiences and what, how it started there. I mean, so it started with, seeing the smiling lady. That seems fine and nice. Now, I'm taking it things probably weren't as nice as you went on.
No, things didn't remain that nice, unfortunately. I think that lady was sort of giving me the heads up in a way, because if I'd have been in the house and just experienced the nasty kind of things that happened to me, I think that would have sort of thrown my life in a different direction, because I think I'd have been living petrified, if I thought all spirit were bad. But no, things kind of led to a much more sinister kind of feel, and it started with silly little things. There was always footsteps, in particular the upstairs hallway between the bedrooms, there was always footsteps, and this isn't sort of pipes clanking a little bit. This was full blown,
like distinct
thump, thump, thump. There was a particular few steps, and we'd hear them creak in the middle of the night. And a full blown skeptic would say, "Well, yeah, that's the house settling. It's this and it's that," but you can tell the difference between a footstep and a creak. And so there was always this kind of thing, and back in the day, I remember my mum sort of always looking up when we were in the lounge or at the dining table, sort of looking up and thinking, that does sound like there's somebody upstairs. And I'd sort of look at her, and she would try and reassure me, "Oh, it's nothing. It's just the floorboards, And my mum, we weren't rich growing up, My mum kind of struggled emotionally quite a bit, and she just split up from her husband, so it was kind of a hard time. But I always think that spirit interact with that kind of energy, and that's what kind of brought along the more malicious kind of things.
Well, it makes me wonder, because you're only 4 years old when you guys move in. Your parents got divorced when you're like 4 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
If any possibility of anything happening before that you just don't remember, like at a different home. Because the reason I say that is, we've had Bill Bean on, the spiritualist warrior, but he really developed, really works well in the demonic field and knows a lot about it. And his main premise is that they like because it happened to him. He had a childhood experience similar to you.
Yeah.
That their purpose is to split families up. To get the dad out of the house, basically, and weaken the family.
Yeah. I don't really remember too much before. I do have a vague recollection of being in the first house that I lived at with my parents and seeing somebody walk by the fish tank. I thought it was my sister at the time, but they had this hat over their face, or what I thought was a hat over their face. But as I went to look and kind of make this person jump, there was nobody there. But I've got to say that memory is a little bit sketchy. It's a little bit kind of.
You were 3 maybe, right?
Yeah, I was going to say it's not as easy to remember that one, but I don't personally believe that it was spirit or something demonic kind of splitting us up, splitting them up. I think
just
that
life.
It was circumstance. It was just a bit of a. But
it might leave it. But at the same time, in Bean's theory and others that I've had on the show, you guys were definitely vulnerable to this.
Yeah. I think more people are. Certain people are more open or more more kind of targeted, especially those who are more open emotionally, especially those people who experience a deeper set emotion. That's just I think spirit and otherworldly kind of energies are more drawn to that because it's almost like, right, we can get in there a little bit and we can kind of sway things, or we can help things a little bit more. Not all spirits are nasty. So in the lady's case, she was aware that I was cold, and she was aware that maybe I was picking up more energies in the house subconsciously, and she was there to kind of reassure me. But I think that kind of just opened me up even more to think, oh crikey, there are ghosts here. And that's kind of when the main spirit in the house, which we call George, kind of focused his attack on me a little bit more.
As much as I love good paranormal investigating and all that, I do relate sometimes back to fiction because I feel like it nails some of the premises of what people go through. Like The Shining. Like you're like Danny. You're like well, seriously. Who was we had Courtney Marcassani, or I'm sorry, Courtney, I butchered your last name, but she was on. She was all about people are born with these sensitive gifts, and a lot of times trauma, emotional trauma, opens children up to it for the rest of their lives. And here you are, 3 or 4. Your parents are going through a divorce. That's a lot to take in for as a child. It could have been opening you up emotionally. Making you this sensitive to these things, and now the spirits around are like, ooh, we got a battery.
Yeah, exactly, and that's quite a good liking really to it. A battery. I think that spirit use our energy. They use energy around us. And you say you've done investigations. How many times do you all of a sudden feel something, and then your phone dies or your torch starts to flicker, and they'll kind of harness any energy they can. And the thing is, with emotional energy, if you're really heightened, and there was times, for example, at a time at Park Road, somebody who my mum was dating, he actually was banging on the door of the house, threatening to kill us all because he was drunk. And this kind of, I remember I was in the bedroom looking down on the street, and I could hear him and I could see him, and kind of the windows were only single pane, so they were kind of shaking a little bit as he was banging it on the door. And I went freezing cold, and I looked in the reflection, and there was a man standing behind me.
It's like feeding directly off his energy, just like The Shining. See, he's like your Danny Torrance, and he's his dad, Jack. Like he's like, guys need to be sneaking out the window, or something. Yeah. But but he's drunk and violent and angry, and you're scared, and all this energy, and there is something to it.
Exactly, and the more they harness that energy, the more they can do. It takes a tremendous amount of energy, I find, to allow spirit to do anything. But it's the right kind of energy at the right time. And with the house on the ground, it was, it's everything just combined, and then all of a sudden.
what the ground it was. I mean, what is the history of this home?
Well, I don't know much history about it, to be quite fair. I mean, Colville is an old mining town. It's riddled with tunnels and old shafts and such like. There's the road that I lived on, Park Road. There's a really old church at the bottom of the road, and I always had an inkling that this main spirit, this George we called him, had something to do with the church, because when I connected with his energy, when he put his hands on me, I had almost like a vision. I kind of had a trance-like experience where I saw his hands dirty. I saw graves, and I saw the graveyard of the church. And when I released the book, it got people talking on the history pages around Colville, and somebody actually private messaged me, and they said, well, I know somebody who worked with the council in the area, and they said that where the council offices are opposite Park Road, that used to be a chapel, and they used to have the graveyards where Park Road is now. So I don't know how true it is, because I've not had a chance to look at it, to be quite fair, with the whole COVID thing. But it all seemed to click in. Like everything that happened to me at that house seemed to click. And the funny thing is, my aim for the book was to get people talking about their own encounters and their own experiences. And that happened. People were saying, crikey, I lived on Park Road. It was always a creepy house, and this happened. And it got me thinking, with this, in the quieter times, it could be that this energy was zooming down to number 2 or number 4. Do you know what I mean? And
it's the whole property. I mean, it's the whole land. So there's a number of houses. They put you in that situation, your little spark, to the fire, basically, because you were open. Obviously, I mean, if you're seeing things like that as a child, not every child does. I think children are more open to it, but I think some children are really open to it, and they feel it. And you're 3 or 4 going through it's an emotional trauma for a kid to go through a divorce. So it's opening you up, and it's feeding these things. So you could have a whole different experience than the house next door. They're having experiences that are more positive. They're seeing smiling old ladies all the time, but you're getting George, who's like putting his hands on you.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think I agree completely. Kids, and I always say to my clients and to people I do talks, it's kids and animals are the most open in the world, because they've not had people saying that doesn't exist and don't be stupid. That's why we close down in time, because we believe what people say to us, because they can't see it doesn't exist. And I think it's a shame, really, because it kind of ruins some of the magic in the world that we're naturally accustomed to seeing, if you understand me.
Oh, I totally understand, because I saw all kinds of things when I was a kid. Things I didn't know at the time were paranormal. I had an imaginary friend that I don't think was really imaginary. I had these experiences, so I was more open, I think, to it. I didn't luckily grow up in a haunted house.
That you know of.
But not that I know. Well, you know what I did? Actually, no, that's not true. We lived in a haunted trailer. And I remember there was a couple instances me and my mom have talked about over the years. She knew the guy who owned the trailer before, but I remember seeing just a figure of a man standing in my doorway, and I'm like curling up under my blankets, and then he crawls into bed with me, and I just jump out and run to my mom's room and tell her, and it freaked her out, because the nights before she was feeling like somebody was getting into bed with her, and kept looking to see if it was me, and I wasn't there. So she knew it was him, and she goes, and the next day goes, go out. When I'm outside playing, she says his name and says, "This is not your place anymore. You need to leave." That next night, she made me clean my room that day. I had it all cleaned up. That night, I don't know if she pissed him off, but something was rampaging through my room and destroying it. Next morning, my mom swears this. She's like, I don't remember that. I'm like, I do. It never left me. The next morning, my room was destroyed after I cleaned it. She goes, what the heck? Were you up all night doing this?
Yeah.
It was him, but he never messed with us again. After she said that.
Yeah, I mean, spirit. It's funny, isn't it? How parents kind of say, "Oh, I don't remember that bit. I don't remember this bit. What is that real?"
It scarred me. I remember.
My mum recently read my book. Actually, she was on holiday the last couple of weeks, and she'd not read it until then. And she did sort of. She said, "Well, yeah, I kind of remember that bit," but. When I asked her about the main point what my mum experienced, she sort of went, and she just kind of tried to mow over it, just because it was quite a nasty experience for her as well.
Well, it's trauma, psychologically, something you can't explain.
Yeah.
Your mind wants to write it off as quickly as possible and not think about it. For a lot of people, that is a reaction. And so years down the line, as that memory gets faded, they've blocked it.
Mm-hmm.
I really think I've seen that happen to people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, and I think it's a good job that people do remember it. It gets people being able to share their own stories. So yeah, absolutely. But
So,
go on, sorry.
I was going to say, so obviously, you had this not benign activity when you first moved in, but then this boyfriend shows up and things start to turn negative. Then.
Yeah, things happened before. I remember one of the first nights that I experienced George, and I was always sent to bed early because there's sort of 7 and 4 years difference between me and my siblings. So, I had to go to bed early. And the carpets were quite thick in Para, and the doors were really thick, proper doors back, not this sort of thin stuff that we get in the house new builds today. And my mum always left the landing light on, the hallway light on, and just because I was afraid of the dark. I even today I don't like the dark, and I think it's my experiences. But I was in bed, and I heard someone walking across the landing, and I thought, brilliant, it's my sister coming to bed, or it's somebody coming to bed. And then the footsteps stopped outside my room, and I thought, whoa, that doesn't feel right. Something doesn't feel right. It feels wrong.
Yeah.
And my door started to push open, and I could hear the bottom of the door rubbing on the carpet, and the room sort of just went ice cold. And you know what it's like if you're in presence of spirit, it can really change the atmosphere. It was freezing, and all of a sudden this shadow creeps along the wall, and it's massive. It must be sort of 7 foot. It was nearly touching the ceiling, and I sort of just watched it. I was gripping my covers, and I just sort of watched it, and it wasn't even like something reflecting the shadow. It was blackness. It was nothing.
Black is black. I think I've talked about it on my show. My most terrifying experience happened when I was 17 to 18. It was, I call it the shadow person experience. And it's just, I'm getting goosebumps because you're bringing back my trauma as I listen to you.
It's horrible. I mean, even today, and I've seen shadow people on investigations. They're thick. It's like a solid shadow, isn't it? But this thing sort of went along the wall, and when it hit the curtains started to billow and come forward, and then it went onto the other wall next to the chimney breast, and when it went behind the cupboards, the cupboards started to shake. And in my head, because it wasn't out loud, but in my head,
like physically shake. You can, like the cupboards are shaking. Oh man!
Yeah, literally like kind of a train was going by or something. It physically shook, and because I remember I had my action figures on the top, and they fell over, and but I could hear in my mind, I could hear this laugh, like this kind. It sounded like it was an echoing laughter from like a tunnel.
Oh my god!
Something.
Oh my, you're giving me goosebumps, man. No, I'm not. I'm serious. No. I talk about my shadow person experience all the time, but like you were really nailing. I went through it when I was like 18, and this thing was terrifying me because it did this laughter thing in my head. It's like in my head. Yeah, it was the Oh, you're.
See, I like that because you're things I'm saying you can relate to. Do you know what I mean? That again was a motivation for the book. And there was a cupboard at the end of my bed, like a storage cupboard, and the door just to the storage cupboard just opened, and it was like something from a horror movie. It just went and then this thing went inside and it just slammed shut. Oh, it was hideous. I told my mum and she didn't believe me, but it was awful.
And are you like still 4 or 5 or how old?
Yeah, no, I was possibly I must be about 4 or 5 at this time when I first experienced this. But this happened quite often. At the worst of times, this shadow came quite close to my bed, and I sort of put my head under the cover, and then I looked back, and there was just this mass there, and I remember screaming out. And my mum sort of came up, and she was asking what was wrong, and she says, "You've had a nightmare." I went, "No, I haven't." And the thing is, there were certain little bits, like there was pools of water that would randomly appear.
Really?
There was handprints. I remember one time, my brother was in there because I shared a room with my brother earlier on in Park Road, and he never believed it. You know, he was one. It's funny enough because he's always scared of it, even though he said he didn't believe. And when I took him on ghost hunts with me, I took him to a castle in Newark. And I remember he was gripping onto my back so tight throughout the whole event.
Oh, you don't believe, buddy? What are you gripping on?
Yeah, exactly. So I loved it. It was so funny. But yeah, he was in bed, and I remember waking up and seeing this shadow standing in front of him, standing next to his bed, and I thought it was my mum's boyfriend at the time. And I sort of said, "John, what are you doing?" And then this shadow, this like form, just turned round and looked at me, and that's when I was, even now talking about, I've got goosebumps as well.
Yeah, I got goosebumps.
But I then obviously screamed at this. I thought, this isn't him. And then I heard my mum coming along. My brother sort of wakes up in a daze, and there's handprints on his cover. Literally like dirt handprints,
like wet or dirt?
Like dirty handprints on his cover, on his covers.
God.
And he blamed me for this. I was in bed,
Yeah.
Excuse me. But and the thing is, it kind of played with us. It wanted my fear, and it wanted me to almost make my mum upset, and it wanted to really kind of shake up the house. And the only times that this thing was more subdued was when we were all happier. I remember, I mentioned earlier about this incident with John kind of threatening to kill us, my mum's boyfriend, and that was the last night that we ever saw John, because the police came and everything, and neither here nor there. When I looked in the reflection, I saw this man behind me. It was the first time I'd seen his face.
Like not a shadow, you're seeing him.
No, I saw him fully, and I looked back because I didn't know who it was, and there was nobody there. And so I looked back into the mirror, and he was there again, and he had his hand on my bed, and then my bed starts to shake. It was so surreal. I can look at it now in my head, and I'm thinking, if I knew what I know now, what I'd do differently, and it's weird how you react in the moment to how you'd react now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this thing, I cowered. I went straight under my covers, and then I felt his hand on my leg, and he pulled me out of bed. And it happened so quickly. It was. I can't quite explain it because it sounds like it's a contradictory, because I can see it now and it's kind of in slow motion, but it did just it was just like shake in bed, pulled out, and then I couldn't move because this thing was on top of me. And this is when I started seeing these vision type things, and I could see him wiping his hands, and I looked down.
It's giving you telepathic visions.
Yeah, it was.
I've been through this.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays I do trans mediumship, right? If I do demonstrations of mediumship, I'll get spirit to speak through me and stuff like that. But that's always voluntary. It's not something that is, I don't believe that spirit can possess us. I think that takes a little bit more of a demonic energy to do so.
Right.
But this was kind of forced on me, and I was just, I could see my breath in front of my face, and I could smell wet earth, and I kind of like the smell, to be quite honest. But
so there was a smell associated too.
Yeah,
you would smell wet earth, and then you got the earth on his
hands. Yeah, and
was this guy like in a grave digger or something, or
you see, this is exactly what I thought. And I kind of share a few thoughts about that in the book, and that's what I was saying about earlier, about how the houses potentially were built where the graves should have been.
Right. And
it would make sense, completely make sense. And the church at the end of the road, it always freaks me out a little bit, but it looks like one of these from kind of the Conjuring movies. Do you know what I mean?
Where you've got, great.
Yeah, you've got the old gravestones, and you've got the big picturesque church and the stained glass. But yeah, I always walk past that church and kind of shiver a little bit. It was, But yeah, it just all makes sense. Everything kind of clicked into place, and it kind of gave me more thoughts about it when I was writing the book. And it just spawned these ideas of, well, this is possibly what it was, because I never found out. We left in a very big hurry at the end of Park Road.
It's usually how these things end.
Yeah, it was.
People getting out in a hurry.
Yeah.
I don't know you as a paranormal Well, that's the thing. I don't know you as a paranormal investigator. You get a lead, like all this stuff. It'd be like they'll tell you all this crazy stuff is happening, and I totally believe them.
Yeah.
But you don't get into investigate because they boom, bow, gone. It's usually
Yeah.
a rental or something like that or whatever.
Yeah.
They're gone. There's no access
Yeah.
anymore. They just got out. They couldn't wait for an investigation team. They got out. That's usually when it's real bad. People don't
Yeah.
stick around. They get out. Not always,
No.
but a lot of the times.
Exactly, and it came up for sale about 3 years ago. The house did, but as far as I drove by it, I drive by thinking if it goes up for sale, I'm going to go and have a look. You know, I just
Right.
want to take my gear and just have a little look. And I'm tempted to post a copy of my book through with a post-it note saying "Call me." You know,
You're right.
I'd love to do it. I really would. I actually managed to do because I talk about my grandmother's house, my grandparents' house in the book as well, where we used to go over for Christmas, and their house is a massive house. It's kind of 5 bedrooms, and it's 4 bedrooms, sorry, and it's such an old house. It's got the stained glass windows, and it's just massive. And one Christmas, I was walking downstairs in the middle of the night to get a drink, and I went to walk back up the stairs, and there's this man standing on the first landing, and he was just laughing. It literally looked like one of these kind of characters that you get in like a silent movie, like the guy like
What
this.
was he wearing?
He was wearing a suit. He was just smartly dressed. He looked comfy, but he looked smart.
Another Shining moment there is what I'm picturing in my mind. Otherwise, you don't see somebody in a bear outfit coming out.
The twins are coming along later.
Or the twins. Yeah. But seriously, so you like, and how old were you when that happened at your grandparents'?
I was about 12.
Oh wow.
But it wasn't necessarily scary. It was freaky because he kind of did this, kind of like beckoning me up, and I was like, nope.
Yeah, no.
So I went back into the kitchen, like past the Christmas tree, back to the kitchen. And I thought, right, well, what's happening here? You know, what am I going to do? And I went back, and he's there, and then he walks back into the back room where actually my mum used to sleep, and it was like So I gave it a little bit more time, and I walked back up, and I didn't see him, but I didn't say anything really to anybody. But my granddad, when he was alive, he used to, on special occasions like on Christmas and stuff, he used to get the projector out, and he'd show us talk about all the holidays and all this sort of stuff that used to go on. And this slide came up, and I was like, oh, who's that? Because it was the man, it was the laughing man. And that's your great granddad, and he died in the chair over there. But the weird thing he said, he lost his mind at the end, and he just wouldn't stop laughing. And I was like,
oh my god!
But the weird thing is as well, my mum said that when she was younger, she had a dream that he was standing on the same landing, and it was beckoning her towards him. To me, that's just
man.
But we did an
you have to wonder.
there.
Oh yeah,
we actually managed to do a live investigation there. It was just when we were coming out of the second lockdown. We caught a few shadows, we caught a few orbs, things like that, but he never made his appearance.
Yeah, no, that's how it works. That's just how it works. I always call it the dancing frog from like the Warner Brothers scene, you know, like hello my baby, hello my darling, like dances for the guy, and as soon as he picks up the box, it's a dead frog.
Yeah,
like, he dances, I promise. You know, that's pretty much how the paranormal works. You know, as soon as you get live TV and people.
Yeah, you see, I think in a way the TV shows like Ghost Hunters and Most Haunted and stuff like that, they kind of give this false impression of paranormal investigating, don't they? You know,
yes.
I've hosted so many events, and people come along expecting all hell to break loose, and then they end up sort of seeing nothing, or
they expect there to be an ovulus there to go down.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, exactly. I have a thing against those kind of apps. You know, I remember going on one investigation, and this woman, she's like, "Oh look, I've got this. It was free on my phone." I was like, "Oh cool." She says, "Oh, you ask it questions and it answers you." I was like, "Oh, brilliant." You know, thinking, "Oh God," and she just she went, "Are you there, Spirit?" And it went, "Yes." I was like, "Okay, cool." And then
you know what though, I stopped judging people on that as a paranormal investigator because I came to realization I wouldn't use them on an investigation.
No.
You know, we do live ITC night on here, you know, where we have spirit boxes and apps and stuff like that, but not Oculus, like random audio generators. But all the evidence I've seen of electronic manipulation by spirits, there's no reason why they can't manipulate something or anything electronic, so, but yeah.
It was just, I saw her little face. She was so excited.
I know. It's like, oh, let me guess that for you.
Yeah. But she went, what's your name? And this thing went Pencil. And I thought, oh,
it's his name, Pencil. It's really Pencil.
It's Pencil the spirit, But no, I've experienced some good things with them, That's
what I'm saying. There is a possibility. Like, I always have to stipulate, I don't want to knock any of them.
No.
Because spirits can manipulate anything. There is the possibility of that. I mean, they've taken control of people's TVs.
Yeah.
They've taken control of people's computers.
Yeah.
I've had them taken control of my phone and start typing on it when we're doing the live ITC.
Yeah.
Like, couldn't make anything intelligible. It's just like all these letters were coming across it's trying. It was weird. So, I mean, anything's possible.
Yeah. No, it is, and sometimes spirit don't have the capacity to kind of spell things out properly or say certain things, It's like on the gibberish you get on a Ouija board sometimes, I don't think you should dismiss it all, but then I think it helps to have a healthy amount of skepticism as well,
Yeah, you need correlation. You need, like, if it says pencil when it says the name, I think it's just saying pencil. That's a good possibility.
It was just it just made me laugh. It was one of them where she was so excited, and then it sort of dashed her dreams in one foul swoop.
You had to wonder, you later in life, being a paranormal investigator, you ever wonder, like, what would have happened if I had not ran away from my grandfather back in up the stairs?
Exactly.
Like, what would have happened if I just went? Like, it's got to be in your mind. You got to think about it. Like, what would have happened?
Exactly. I don't know. I'd like to think that I would like to think that he wouldn't have dragged me to the spirit world, like something out of the movie. But I think it was too out there for me, completely too out there for me back in the day. I don't
think anybody would have gone with him.
No, I'd probably send a drone with him next time. If I see him again. It would be interesting.
Now, we, like I said, I don't want to give away all the book and all that stuff, but living in that haunted house, what I find fascinating about these instances is how it does react to the energies, the positive energies to the negative. Like, I always point out when I do get these, if I do get to go in a case where it seems like the residents are reporting really negative activity, I come with a team of investigators. We're all done this so many times. We're all blah blah blah, happy. We're happy because we're on an investigation, and none of that dark stuff happens. And I'll turn to the investigators and go, it's like we almost need somebody to be a curmudgeon here. We almost need somebody to have like some dark. And one time I got my wish.
Yeah.
One time I got my wish on an investigation. The husband was not into it and very drunk and very negative. And I got my wish because he came in yelling at us. And next thing you know, I see and the lights are on and everything. This isn't in the dark. I see a full body, me and my wife both see it, full body like apparition walk through. I go, see? There's but we had to get out of there. No investigation. This guy was getting violent. But you get what I mean. Like when things are dark, totally. You come in with an investigation team, you're all happy and you're being yourself. That's not the energy that's here. But you just change the dynamic.
Thing. Yeah, you have to try and change the energy. I mean, so many people think that you have to be all. I don't want to make out that you'd be disrespectful because I'd never kind of be disrespectful to spirit. Yeah. But I think you have to change the energy sometimes because if you're dealing with some mean kind of son of a gun, you have to kind of talk the way he react to. And I'd never go to spirit, but I wouldn't just say, come on then, come through, talk to me. I'd say, come on then, do something, and I'd really kind of try and encourage. Yes, exactly.
I'll be provoked. The only way I provoke is like thoughtfully provoking, like Eric kind of provoking, like trying to get something in that provokes, but nothing like negative, like come out, you SOB. And I've seen people do that and get scratched. And you got activity, but it's not the one you want. And then it's following you home. You're having you're going to have a bad time.
No, I get that, and I think if you're on a public investigation as well, where you've got people that are quite new to it, I think by encouraging things too much, it can lead to them being a little bit more afraid, and that again leads to more negatives. And I don't necessarily say whether the spirit would follow you home, but what does follow you home is your paranoia that spirit are going to follow you home. Do you know what I mean?
Right?
And I've had loads of people sort of message me saying, "Oh, I came in your event last night. This has happened now," and it's I don't want to kind of tell people that they're paranoid, but I'll say, your mind's a bit more open now, and if you think it's spirit, if you want to see if it is, then ask them to do something, or ask them to communicate. But when you do that, it's not as easy to close the door. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
I think
always
my
think
wife's
that
blaming me
this-
of having stuff follow us home, and I don't provoke her
Yeah.
and get negative, but we did an investigation of the property was where Belle Guinness, I don't know if you're familiar with her, was in America, late or early 1900s.
Yeah.
She faked her own death. She'd killed over 40 men in a
Wow.
black kind of Black Widows kind of scheme on her farm.
Yeah.
Chopped them up, fed them to her pigs, that kind of deal.
Yes, I think I
And-
have.
Yeah, well, we investigated that property because it's in my town.
Oh wow!
And I lost an investigator to that because I saw a floating, dirty dressed girl, and I can only associate that coming from that property.
Yeah.
My wife had to reward the house, but he who got us into this place, it was all fascinated about digging up all the history. He was going to do all this on Belle Guinness, really expose some stuff that had not been talked about. Quit investigating, had horrible experiences,
Yeah.
and felt that she followed him home. He didn't want any more part of it.
Yeah.
After buying all this equipment. You know,
I was gonna
he
say,
was
yeah.
done. But he was
Yeah.
also a bit sensitive, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He had his abilities in it. That's why I think if you're it's like you're the Carol Ann, from Poltergeist, you're like this, you're like a light to the moth
Yeah.
that's going to follow
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
No,
So
no.
it's a possibility.
It's funny, isn't it, though, how you get some people that kind of join you and they think it's going to be kind of a whirlwind of excitement, but sometimes it can be blooming scary.
It's like fishing.
And-
Too,
yeah.
though. It's a lot of the time sitting in the dark with nothing.
Talking, yeah,
too.
exactly. I think you have to have a fair whack of determination and patience when it comes to ghost
Yeah.
hunting. We did an event at Newsham Park Asylum, and if you Google Newsham Park Asylum, it is literally a big Gothic hospital. It used to be an orphanage. It was an asylum. It was a hospital. And everything is still there. Like, you'll walk through the halls and there'll be wheelchairs there, and the gurneys are there. And we did an investigation there, and I was working as one of the mediums, sort of walking between the groups. And I was in the top corridor, which is called the Naughty Boys corridor, because they used to shut all the orphans in the cupboards when they were too
that's just
loud.
great.
And I was in there with this guy and this girl, this young couple. The woman was well into it, she was calling out, and the guy was sort of picking his nose and just sort of sitting there like this. And we were in one cupboard, and we heard this scratching sound, and he looked at me, he turned his torch on, make sure I wasn't doing it, and I was like, well, my hands are here, so we kept it on. We heard this scratching again, and he turned the torch over to the other side, and he saw what we thought was another guest waving at him. And I said, turn the torches off, then we'll ask again. Somebody opened the door, which freaked him out. But when the thing that really got him is he turned the torch to the side, and there was just a wall there.
So there's no way somebody was waving at him.
Nobody waving at him, and he
man.
lost his head. He just he left. He said, "No, we're not staying here." And there we go.
Is that it?
That's the
Rob.
one.
Hey, by
You
the way,
could
I
get-
get his book cover in the Dropbox, Rob, too, if you pull that up at some point, too. But yeah.
Yeah, try and find the ones from the inside. You'll see how creepy it really is.
Man,
it's
you just look at the
massive.
outside, and that's a paranormal investigator's pipe dream right there.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive to hire nowadays, because since
I bet.
ghost hunting companies are 10 to a dozen now, aren't they? So
Yep.
so the venues tend to hock the prices up a little bit over.
And all
here.
you get is like a ghost tour or a semi kind
Yeah.
of hunt. And it's like, this isn't it. This isn't what I want to
No.
do. That's
No.
why I don't go on these things, because I've been on a few. I've not been on
Yeah.
a lot, but I'm just like, I want to do a real investigation.
Yeah. See, me and my girlfriend are going back here in October as well, because it's close to my birthday, and rather than paying sort of £1,500 to hire a building for ourselves, we'll probably pay about 60, and we can get a few hours there. But it'll be fun.
You know what? I'd still take it. I'd still take it in a place like that. That is awesome.
There's no electric in there either, so it is
No.
literally, there's a tiny kitchen where the janitor sits and makes you a cup of tea for 50p if you want one, but otherwise there's nothing. It's massive. It's like a maze.
It looks massive, yeah.
The first time I went there, and I was having to clear out check there was no more guests, and I'm one of these people who say I'll walk anywhere, I'll go anywhere if I want, I'm fine. I ain't afraid of no ghost.
Yeah.
And I was just past the Naughty Boys corridor actually, walking back down, and I'd got turned around and I'd reached this ward, and there was a curtain here and a curtain here, and I stopped and I thought, right, don't feel right. And two shadows literally just walked past each other and behind the curtains, and it was the only way I had to go. So I thought, crap, I got to go through here. And I just sort of ran. There you go. It's crazy.
Yeah, that just looks like it's going to have all kinds of spookiness going on there.
Yeah, and it's brilliant. I love it. It's possibly the last time I was ever scared on an investigation was at that place.
Now, I know you're like a spiritualist medium, so you go in there kind of on that aspect, but do you like do the recorders? My favorite thing is EVPs. I love EVPs, so that's like kind of my bread and butter, what I want to get when I go on an investigation. I mean, I'd love to get a clear one on video, but I haven't. But I've got EVPs, a ton of them. Yeah.
I like using my gift. I like using my abilities more, but not everybody. See, ghost hunting has changed so much over the years. Like, people used to love having a medium on board, and people used to love doing the human pendulums or things using ourselves and our abilities. But I do like to have a little bit of kit. I like to have a K2 meter occasionally. I like to have the Frank's box, and I like to use pendulums and dowsing rods and stuff that we can actually use ourselves, because I find that a lot of the kit can react to things like a K2 meter. If you've got your phone close to it, it's going to go off.
There's all kinds of things that make a K2 meter go off.
You've got the idiots that have the garage key things that just click them, and I think it just I find it hard to trust on a public event.
Yeah, I get you.
But I like
that. For me, I've had all these experiences. I mean, I've had very psychic experiences, but when I got into it in 2008 with my wife, we learned how to become investigators. I wanted to I didn't want to explore being a medium or being that. I wanted evidence. I wanted physical evidence. I was obsessed with EVPs, still am. Now, as I've gotten older, I'm getting more into maybe I should develop what I've had and look more towards it, because I love having mediums on investigations. I feel like they're my little batteries to activity. I honestly do.
Yeah, you have a few. Yeah, it's nice to have your sensitives to kind of give you a little bit of extra strength and a different view. I like having skeptics along because I like giving spirit bait. I like. Although I always say that I don't ever want to change people's minds. I like to give people questions, and I always like to hear a skeptic scream, because it's. I did an investigation. It was a private one for a nightclub, a group of nightclub staff, and this doorman was doing my head in this bouncer, and it was massive. He looked like The Rock, and he was goading me sort of all the way through the walk round, and I said, "So you don't believe in this, do you?" And he went, "No." And he sort of, giving it all the big and like this. And I said, "Okay, well, so I'm going to put you in a room on your own." And he went like this to that, just smiled to her. And he sort of tried to get at the big one. I was like, "Oh, okay, like this, I don't mind." And I put him in one room on his own. And I said, "Right, so there's a lady in here. She used to be a nurse." I said, "She doesn't really like people just loitering." And I said, "I'm going to close the door." I said, "Look, you can see there's nobody else in it." It wasn't a massive room. And he was like, "Yeah, okay." So I went back to the other group, and before you know it, he screams louder than I thought was possible. And something had touched his backside. And that cured it. It cured him of his skepticism, and it kind of got him involved. So,
I think a lot of skeptics are skeptics out of fear. Like, they just don't want to believe it's real because they're so fear. One of the things I started doing, residential investigations, how I said, our team would come in and we're all happy to be there and changing the energy of the place, is I'd have the owner, one, to face their fear, and two, to see if we do get activity from them being in their own thing, is would set up cameras and mics, and so we can monitor them and listen to them, but I put them in a room, away, close the door, put them on camera, put them on audio, and have them talk to what's there. And see what happens. I would swear it would spike activity, because they're like the sacrificial lamb. They're feeding the energy with their fear. And it's not something I want to encourage people to do, but it's an experiment I've tried a few times. And it's also, like I said, a way to get the person to face their fear too.
I agree. But with most residential hauntings or kind of investigations that I do, I find sort of at least a good 50-60%, it's normally a spirit energy that's attached to them who wants to get through to them, but is. I think when people are so no, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to talk to you, I don't la la la, kind of putting the things in their ears because they don't want to hear. I think that's when spirits sort of go, right, I'm getting a bit fed up now. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I think that's so many of the investigations that I've done in residential homes. It gets a lot calmer once you get that message through. Sometimes it's a little bit more. Sometimes it's a lot more. I don't necessarily think that demonic hauntings are a big thing. I think it needs a heck of a lot of nasty energy to create something demonic.
I'm a Gnostic, so it's not that I don't believe in the demonic, but it's all syntax to me. Or it's a Judeo-Christian explanation for something we don't understand.
Yeah,
I think these things are a bit parasitic. That they feed off our energy. It could be something in another dimension we don't understand that reacts to us. The biggest comparison, my favorite comparison I make, is I'm a Star Wars fan, Star Trek fan too. But is the cave on Dagobah with Luke. Remember, have you seen Empire Strikes Back? Yoda tells him, no weapons you will need, and he's trying to tell him, you take whatever you take in there, it's going to react to you. It's going to be a mirror. And what happens? He takes his lightsaber in and he gets in a lightsaber battle with the shadow self of him as Darth Vader. That hauntings are very much like the cave on Dagobah. It's going to react to what you give it.
Yeah. I mean, when I think of demonic energies, I think it's separate to spirit, but I use the term as something that we don't understand, but it's something more. It's something separate than I'd use for spirit. I don't think it was ever a human. I think it's whether it's an interdimensional being, whether it's something that was here before us, whether it's a tree spirit. You know what I mean? It's just something completely different.
It wasn't human. That's what my experience. My shadow person, even though I very much relate to your childhood experiences with George. What I dealt with a shadow person I never felt was actually ever human. It felt alien to me. And it tormented me. It levitated me up off my bed and threw me down. I mean, it got physical just like he did, but it never. I never felt like it was an actual person ever born. And it's a long story, but that's what I always said. These things, it wanted my fear.
Yeah,
just like I think George did. They get it's like it's an energy boost to them or something.
Yeah. See, I think shadow people are kind of a different. They're kind of in between the spirit and demonic. I think because it's almost like they're craving for the light. Do you know what I mean? They're craving for substance, and that's possibly one of the most common things I see on an investigation. Especially at places like Newsham or some of the castles that I've visited. It almost feels like something happened there. And it's drew in a certain type of energy, but it doesn't have the substance that a normal spirit would have because it wasn't alive. It was just energy manifesting as a person's shape. And I think the more negative, if you acknowledge them and if you interact with them, you're giving them substance, you're giving them form.
It's like a thought, a topa, a Tibetan thought form.
Exactly.
We got to go to commercial break. And Rob, I'm glad you're here. Because Jamie's been telling me about the stuff going on in your house, and I think you should talk about it tonight. And I would love to get Andy's opinion on it. What stuff? Yeah, I know, buddy. I know what you got going on. Messing around with that ITC, bringing demons in your house.
That's the thing.
I know. All right, guys, we're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, we will open up the phone lines to call in and talk to our guest, Andy Hopkins, spiritual medium. Right, he's not doing readings tonight, but if you need advice on your own haunted situation, I'm sure he's a good one to ask, or just tell us about your experiences. Join the conversation tonight. That's why we do this show. All right, guys, we'll be right back after this short commercial break.
experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHN Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Edgar Allan Poe wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
You said before you were waiting for a sign. What sign are you waiting for?
Gozer the Traveler. He will come in one of the pre-chosen forms. During the rectification of the Valdrani, the Traveler came as a large and moving Tor. Then, during the third reconciliation of the last of the McKettrick supplicants, they chose a new form for him, that of a giant slore. Many Shubs and Zools knew what it was to be roasted in the depths of the floor that day, I can tell you.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Andy Hopkins. He's a spiritualist medium and author of Haunting on Park Road and also his newest book, Next Chapter After Park Road. It's about his experiences growing up in a haunted house and how it shaped him making him a spiritualist medium. I mean, maybe he would have been. We can ask tonight if he thought he would have been without the haunted house experience. His life could have maybe been totally different. I do think these things change people and set them on paths that were meant to happen sometimes. I don't know. Rob, we want to talk to you tonight. I've been hearing about some craziness going on in Rob's house. Like me, he attracts the weird and the unusual, maybe a lot more than I do. So I'd love to hear Rob's experiences right now and get Andy's take on that, but I'd also want to hear yours tonight. The phone lines are open. Call in. Tell us about your experiences. Did you grow up in a haunted house? Are you living in a haunted house now? Do you want advice from Andy? Now's the time to call in. Let me make sure the phone lines are open here. I got to make sure I press the button. They are now open. Call in and join the discussion, but let's go ahead and get back to our guest. All right, welcome back to the show, Andy.
Thank you.
It's your book.
Yes.
Haunting on Park Road.
Yes, it is.
And then, like I said, you got a sequel out. So, like I said, I got to read this book, especially since it's touched a nerve. Like your experiences with George are very similar, especially when you talk about the laughing part.
Yeah.
And the way he did.
It'd be good to get your take
this.
on it. Yeah, it would definitely be good to get your take on it. And I didn't want to make it too much of a long read, you know. I wanted it to be something that people could kind of finish and kind of. But there's no. I think what I find about a lot of paranormal books is there's a lot of fluff. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of things that you don't exactly need in there, and I wanted something to be hard hitting.
Just the facts, man. Just the facts.
Yeah, exactly, exactly right. You know, the sequel's a little bit shorter, you know, but that's because I wanted to kind of define the different chapters in my life as well. So the next one will be about other public investigations that I've done or certain house cleansings that I've done. So you know, I want to give people. I don't want to overload people, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, no, I got you. Now, Rob, sorry to put you on the spot here, but I've been hearing from Jamie you got some stuff going on. I think Andy would be great to give you some advice. What's going on? What's been going on in the humble abode of Rob Autry?
Oh, you know, it's there's been a lot of stuff happening, and the last couple of weeks has gotten pretty intense, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we had this house built, you know, from the ground up, brand new in the first year. There was nothing here. Our old house that we moved from, it was crazy. So, you know, my wife was like, and even me, I was like, wow, this is what it feels like to get a good night's sleep, you know? And then after a year, she's like, you know, what are you doing? And stuff's been happening on and off, but yeah, the last few weeks it's gone into overdrive. And like the other night I was working and I just, you know, doing my thing, had some music playing, looked up, and there's a lady standing in the doorway watching me, like not ghostly looking, like I'm like, who the hell is in my house? You know,
right?
And yeah. Seen shadows and stuff, you know, darting around.
We got a shadow. We got a shadow. It's been 2 years at least, or a few years ago. Yeah. Remember, we were doing Andy. We were doing you know, I told you we do the live ITC stuff.
Yeah.
You asked why his house is haunted now after being in a year, and it was like people spotted it. It was like a shadow that moved behind him while we were doing live ITC. You could see it. There's nobody else in the room with him. Nothing else that could cause the shadow. So yeah,
it happened at like 4:30 in the morning when the dogs and his wife, everybody was asleep. It was just him not paying attention to anything but his work. And the next instance he's going to talk about the same exact situation, same time, everybody was asleep.
Yeah, I was sitting there like just chatting to Jamie, just talking about nothing in particular, you know, and I'm like, whoa, I just saw it again. just weird.
Something's trying to get your attention. You don't recognize her though, do you?
No, you know, I mean, since my mom passed, I mean, I've seen and heard her here. I know she's been here.
Yeah.
But yeah, these last couple of things, like Darcy just out of the blue earlier this past week, she was like, you need to sage the house. I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah. And you know, we don't really talk about the stuff we see. It's just it just happens, and it's kind of normal now.
Tell him what she saw though.
But yeah, she was like, yeah, I saw an older, kind of balding, heavy set guy in the kitchen. And that the only connection to that is somebody, I think it was on Jason's show here. We had a psychic or something that did I can't remember who it was. It was a girl, a woman, and she did a remote viewing here. And she's like, there's an older heavy set gentleman, kind of balding, that has a cigar.
Oh, who was that? I remember that. Yeah, who was that? Oh yeah,
Like,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, she's like, it might be your dad. I'm like, no, that's not.
No, I remember that. You were like, yeah, I don't know who you're talking about. And then so then Darcy saw that same exact description
last week.
And that's the night that you saw the woman, correct, Rob?
No, this was a separate night.
Oh, the next night?
Yeah, it was a separate.
So medium sort of did remote viewing in your house and saw this balding
on the
character
show
in your house. Is that right?
Yeah,
yeah.
And
okay,
I can't think of
I'd
anyone.
explain that. Yeah, I see. I'd sort of think all the readings I do, you know, a good sort of maybe 30% don't kind of understand who I'm talking to around them. You know, it could, but so I'd possibly say this person that she was describing could have been somebody who's just drawn into you. You know, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but it's how you respond to that, isn't it? You know, if you don't want this middle-aged balding guy in your kitchen, then you know.
I don't think Darcy does.
I'd be saging your house. Yeah, I'd be saging the house. You know, getting bringing in the light and getting rid of the darker. You know, and how did he make this? How did he make Darcy feel? Was he like negative for her? Did he make her feel kind of oppressed or?
Well, she's seen a few things. She saw this tall, really tall, thin guy, kind of dressed in blue, sitting on the couch.
Okay.
And she's like, he didn't give me negative feelings. And the same with this. It wasn't so much as negative, but she did tell me the other night that for the first time since we've lived here, which has been a little over 5 years now, that she came out and she didn't want to walk through the house with the lights off. She said it was
she just had a feeling,
uneasy feeling. Yeah.
But is that human fear, or is that the fear in this kind of these characters that are going in your house?
I mean, I see this stuff now, and I'm like, am I like going crazy? You know, did I really just see what I think I saw?
Your dogs see it all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm questioning my sanity sometimes now.
I think you're more able to talk about it without seeming crazy nowadays. You know.
Yeah.
I think
that's what the show's about.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, I think it's more accepted nowadays, isn't it? You know, I think people won't immediately go, "Oh, crazy." You know, people are more believable with it. So.
Back in the day, I'd have been locked up in that park hospital or somewhere.
Yeah. Hey, I tell you what, you know, when I was kind of maybe 16, 17, and I went to see a psychiatrist because I was having issues apparently.
Yes.
And they asked me what I did. And I said, well, you know, I'm getting into spiritualism. I hear spirit and I see spirit. And the first thing they said to me was, do they tell you to hurt anybody?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
not usually, but right now they don't like you very much.
Yeah. They tell me to throw this chair at you.
Yeah, I had that with my shadow person experience. My mom found me like in a breakdown point where I was just a mess, like psychologically torn down, and she sent me to psychology. She was really worried, like I'm gonna hurt myself or whatever. And that was the worst experience because I didn't feel like I could talk. I couldn't tell him what was going on. I gave him the gist of things going on in my life, but I could not tell him what was really pushing everything was this shadow person that was attacking me at night. I'm like, he'll lock me up. He'd be like, yeah, no, I'll be on antipsychotic drugs or something. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I'm happy that the world's moving on. We're more accepting of energy and the effect of energy on people. I think it's doing pretty well now.
Like
now, somebody like, go ahead, Rob.
I was going to say, like you were saying earlier, we've all had these experiences starting about that 4 or 5 year old range.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I was talking to Jamie the other night, and I think when kids that age, that's when you start remembering stuff. Like before 4, it's kind of sketchy. You remember stuff, but I think kids are. I think their minds are open to this kind of thing more because they haven't been in this society where you're crazy. You're not. You're an imaginary friend.
Yeah.
Well, that's my question to you, Andy, is like if you hadn't had the haunted house experience, at that young of an age, do you think you would be a spiritualist medium? Do you think or you'd be doing something else?
Well, I don't think I'd be on this path. No, I think I'd have maybe dabbled a little bit, but no, I wanted to be an actor when I was younger. I did. I could kind of. That was my path that I always wanted to do when I was younger. But I think the more I experienced, the more questions that I had, the more answers I needed, and the more I kind of felt special because I could see things that other people were saying that they couldn't see. And I think that kind of encouraged me more to kind of go down this path. And I remember the very first spiritual reading that I gave somebody in a development group. And I'd never met this lady before, and I didn't know how to form messages or anything like that. And I just kind of said what I saw, and I saw this man, and I felt really anxious with him, and I felt this pressure, and I was all confused. And this woman just started crying because I'd picked up a spirit that was kind of dear to her, and she just that kind of moment. And after the group, I was sort of standing outside talking to these people, and she came up and hugged me and said thank you because she'd been waiting for this message. And that kind of cemented things. I was sort of this is right. I want to help people with it.
What did you do to start kind of like developing it and like decide to start doing readings or investigations with it?
Well, I read a lot when I was younger. I mean, things got so bad kind of in Park Road that I started reading about what people did to protect themselves and kind of spells, incantations, all this kind of stuff. And that's kind of formed a bit of a protection in my bedroom from George and from the other spirits. But I like to read and I like to ask questions, and I'd go to spiritualist churches, and I'd see things on TV like Most Haunted over here.
I don't like Most Haunted. I do not like that show, man.
I'm very good friends actually with one of the mediums who from
it's not the people, it's the production.
Yeah, it lost its credibility. Let's put it that way. But for the industry and for me, it was a big kind of thing. When I was in an unhealthy relationship, I remember watching this live Most Haunted. I was thinking, I need to be doing this, and I could be doing this. And I think to develop, you need the right people, and you also need to not limit yourself to one person's teachings, because I'm a Reiki master as well, so I do a lot of healing. But some Reiki masters say, and Reiki teachers say, you can't drink this and you can't do this and you've got to be pure. And me without coffee is like a priest without a church. It's just not cricket. I can't do it, and it doesn't affect my healing. So why should we limit ourselves and not enjoy things, or so why limit yourself to one person's teachings? Some people in my development classes that I do, They come along expecting us all to sit in a nice circle, holding hands, and a majority of the times we'll laugh, we'll cry, we'll sing. We'll do anything to kind of drum up energy and to express ourselves and express the messages that we're getting. Because spirit don't always want you to sit in a circle and talk. Some spirit want to have a laugh and want that energy. Do you know what I mean?
Oh no, I totally do. Because when we do our live ITC, we're not all like super serious and like calling for demons. Like we're joking and having a good time, and it keeps things positive with the spirit world.
Yeah.
As soon as we start talking about dark stuff, man, you start hearing dark stuff coming out of the spirit box.
Yeah.
You start getting things that are like, okay, demon. We don't want that. So we keep these very positive when we do it. It's like a live seance. I mean, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, I love life seances. We did one. I lost a friend of mine, a close friend of mine, to COVID, sort of in
I'm
December
so sorry.
time. That's okay. He's come through a couple of times. It was a
Yeah.
live seance, and he had a very particular laugh. And we started the circle at my house, and sort of went all around kind of the local area with like my group. And in each of our houses, we all heard this laugh separately.
That's awesome.
We all heard this cough as well. It was just so surreal. I love it. I love live
Yes.
senses, and it's something that's different. People think, well, how can that work? Because you're not all
Yes.
there, you're not together. But energy isn't
It does.
bound by our kind of geographical locations. It's a different plane, isn't it? So I'd quite be interested. I'd be interested to watch some of your live stuff that you do like that.
Yeah, it's been a while because we
Yeah.
just talked about this last week. I've been booked up with guests. I'm like booked.
Yeah.
And I save those ITC nights, and we also have psychic game nights for like if I have a cancellation. Well, knock on wood, I haven't had a cancellation. I don't want one, but if I do, that's when I use those for. And but I'm gonna have to schedule an ITC and a psychic games night. Just gonna have to leave a date open and do it, and just not schedule a
Make
guest.
sure you send me an email because I'd love to
you're
be a
welcome.
part of that. That would be
You
brilliant.
can definitely be a part of it. You can definitely. We'll talk after the show. I'll shoot you some emails and we'll figure it out. But we need to do it again on here. It's been a long time. The one thing is that we do, and this is why I don't do it all the time, is I make sure I go back through and review the whole show, all the audio, and I edit it down. I tag it as best as I think it might be for each caller. Because people call in for it, because I want to try to see, are they getting responses? We've had some amazing stuff come through, so I try to give it the dedication and time for it. But that's why I don't do it all the time, because it takes weeks to go through that 3-hour show.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
To edit
No,
all that.
I get that. Yeah.
But
I
you're
get that.
definitely welcome to. I love having other people guest on for ITC, so we got to talk, Andy, and especially since you're a medium.
Completely.
We've had our friend Katrina Cooper on, who's a medium, and I know I have better ITC shows when Katrina's on.
Yeah.
I know for sure. It's proven to me because it's just me, Jamie, and Rob. Nothing against them or myself. We got our own psychic stuff going on. We get some stuff, but man, it is nothing like when Katrina's on. We've had full body voice come through the audio that did not come out of the spirit box. That's when I had Katrina and Steve Huff on the show. So we got a lot of power going into it, but we had a full body voice come into the show audio that was totally direct to the caller, like right on the dot. It said peanut butter and jelly. It was Rhodey that called in. This is years ago. I mean, that's how powerful it can be. That's seance stuff there. It wasn't even coming out of Steve Huff's box.
Yeah.
We know it wasn't because his had reverb. This had no reverb, and it came right through the show audio. So, I always say this is where the paranormal happens live, and I promise the audience we will have a live ITC show. I will find time. I'm just really booked up with guests. Speaking of, we got somebody on the line here that always calls in. He's had some interesting ITC calls too. Usually asks for celebrities. I guess you can guess who. My regular audience is Zach. How you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm doing pretty good, brother. How was your birthday, by the way?
It was great. Spent time with the family all off that day, and little pool time, little time with the family. It was a good day.
Awesome, man. Glad to hear it. So I just have 2 questions over for tonight. My first question is for Andy. Andy, very nice to meet you, sir. So going back to your experience of dealing with the Laughing Man, my question to you is, did you ever find out for this spirit, were they still stuck in the same kind of mentality whenever this gentleman passed away, or did you ever find out if maybe a larger, darker entity was manipulating this spirit to scare you? Did you ever find out anything about
Okay,
that?
well, I like to think that when we pass over, we kind of, if somebody passes away of, say, for example, a heart attack, they don't go to the spirit world suffering that ailment. I think that when he came through as he did, I mean, like I said, it wasn't scary, it was more freaky. But I think when he came through as that, it was to give me kind of a sign of what it was giving me the ability to relate to him, because when my granddad then said, yeah, he kind of lost it at the end and he just sort of sat there laughing, I think that's why he came through it like that. Often when I do a reading for somebody, they'll come through, they'll show me an ailment or they'll show me an aspect of how they passed away, and that's the last they'll say of it. Once I've got that link, they'll then go on to the messages they want to say, or they'll want to guide somebody a little bit more. Yeah, exactly. You can always tell when a darker energy tries to manipulate, particularly on things like a Ouija board or using pendulums and stuff like that, because this is where I said earlier about having a healthy dose of skepticism, because if I put my hand on a board and somebody says, all right, I've got a message for you, I'll immediately say, okay, what's your name? If they can't spell it out, or if they can't give me validation of who they are, I very rarely will believe them.
Right.
For example, I've been told so many times on seances and Ouija boards that the devil's waiting for me in a particular room, or you're going to die, or something ridiculous like this.
Yeah.
It's so I think the different, you can always tell in your heart and in kind of your feelings if somebody's real, if somebody's particularly like that, actually that person. And I think this is where people need that skepticism, because people who come for a reading, they want to hear from somebody. In some cases, they're kind of desperate to hear from somebody, and these darker energies can kind of prey on them. It's your dad, but well, are you? What? Tell me something about yourself. That some people will just accept it, saying, "Right, I'm your dad." Oh, okay, brilliant. And that's when trouble can start, because they let that person in, they give that spirit energy and
permission.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when more negative and malicious kind of things happen.
Okay. All right. And then the second question is actually for everybody here. I want to know your input. So I've had some experiences lately to where my TV in my bedroom will come on by itself at random times. It happened to me a couple times when I was sleeping. The TV would just turn on by itself, and I've had to wake up and turn it off and all that. And I actually asked my brother about this, because he's very much in electronics, and he didn't really have a definite answer for me for sure. But I mean, I remember one time I came home from work, my TV was on, and at the most I maybe watch my TV once a month. So very rarely do I ever watch it. But I came home from work one time and the TV was on by itself and nobody else goes into my bedroom. And I've turned it off, and I finally said out in the open, I said, unless you're paying my electric bill, don't turn on my TV. I use a lot more language for that, but I don't turn on the TV. Unless you're paying the electric bill, don't turn on the TV. And more importantly, I'm like, if you want to go watch the Jeffersons, go watch it on the TV out in the main room. So there you go. But anyway, so last night actually took another turn, because my fiance was with me, and I went to bed and she was watching TV very late. She turned it off. She went to bed. 20 minutes later, the TV comes on by itself. So now she is finally seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to know, just from all of you folks here, just what your input would be on the events that I've described.
See, I'd say that seems more paranormal. The first thing I'd suggest is like, was there a fault with it? Could there be anybody switching it on? If those
like a
are
neighbor.
certainly no, yeah. Well, and just anybody, if there's anybody in the house, or if anybody has access to the TV, or if there's a fault. It's like when toys all of a sudden turn on, check if there's a fault with it first. But the fact that it happens randomly, and the fact that it seems more intelligent than just a random fault to me.
I would ask, first off, you say random times. Is it always, what's it turn to? What's it turn on?
It just turns on really to any channel. I mean, it's no.
You said the Jeffersons, so that's why I was like, is it the Jeffersons? Or like, does this, do they want to watch some TV?
It turns on to random stuff. I mean, one time I got the televangelist channel, and another time I got classic TV like the Jeffersons that I pointed out. Another time it turned on the Flintstones. I'm like, this is weird.
Well, I mean, you got, maybe it was a Christian that lived in the 60s, 70s, 80s and watched TV. That's why I want to watch the Jeffersons now and the Flintstones. And I don't know. I mean, or there's messages behind every time it turns it on. I don't know. I'd pay attention.
I've had that happen here. Go figure. But,
oh, really? Big surprise.
Yeah. It's been a while, but yeah, a couple of years ago, for about a week, like every night, my TV would just come on, and it did it for like a week, and then it hasn't done it since. But it's definitely happened. Just random channel.
I had a couple times a couple months ago. Or my wife's asleep, and I walk into the room, the TV's off, and it just suddenly turns on, like it's like, oh hey, I'm turning on for you. You're coming in.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? So I don't know what that was either. But I always say, Zach, is just make sure you don't have a neighbor that's got a TV window, like a window next to your house with the same kind of TV, and they're like somehow some signals reflecting and coming. I know that's very very unlikely, but it has happened. Where somebody's remote's signaling your TV, but it's not likely. They're not very strong signals.
Yeah. See, we can get an app. We've got you can get an app that controls sort of your streaming boxes and stuff. So that's a potential. But normally you'd have to have like a code or something, as far as I can remember.
Yeah, you'd have to link it. So the app part, it would be, they'd have to be hacking into his system, to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember.
I don't know. Next time, Zach, tell him to ask him to turn the channel, do something.
Yeah.
I might do that just to see if it actually manipulates it. And of course, if it is my neighbor that's doing it, I'll tell him, hey, stop turning my TV on, and then of course I'll take into consideration cutting my. I'll do that. Anyway, so thank you so much, Andy, for your input, man. I do greatly appreciate it. I love hearing everything that you're saying, man.
Thank you for calling in. Yeah, no, it's
been a pleasure.
Zach.
Thank
you.
All right, everybody. Y'all have a good night.
You too. What were you going to say, Rob?
Remember the night we did a show and all of our fire alarms went off?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was just thinking about that.
Yeah. How do you explain that one?
Yeah. We had a night, Andy, where we were doing the live ITC, and now we're all in different time zones, but 3 a.m. I think wasn't it 3 a.m. for all of us in our respective time zones?
Pretty much.
Had our alarms go up.
Alarm.
Yeah, say Jamie's was her burglar alarm. Me and Rob's were our fire alarm. Yeah. I woke up that middle night at 3 a.m. in the morning to what I thought was I thought I saw smoke, like all this smoke in my house, and the fire alarm's going off. And then when I flip on the lights, no smoke, and the fire alarm's just going off.
Yeah.
Then I find out the next day they had similar instances. I'm like, oh, time to take a break from the ITC.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It definitely sounds like a linked spirit there, definitely.
Well, that's the thing. You get a lot of people interested in the paranormal like us, and they start messing around with ITC apps and doing Ouija boards and doing all this stuff, and they're like, oh my God, why is my house haunted now?
Yeah.
If you ask, it's permission. We talked about permission. If you give these things permission, they are going to reach out and try to talk to you. That's a warning I give to everybody that wants to get into this. You need to tread carefully.
Yeah. 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 And I always think spirit are after that light still. Even the friendly ones, they all kind of heard, and they want that light to be back again. So, they can be quite eager to let you know that they're there,
Yeah, no, exactly. I honestly think, it's about permission and intent. And if you start trying to communicate with spirits, I've told this to many people, especially people that had hauntings start after they did an app or a Ouija board or something like that. I'm like, okay, well, stop. No more communication, because you opened up that channel and it's going to keep trying to want to talk. The more you do, the more it's going to keep talking. You need to, shut that, down. Don't do that in your home.
Yes,
if you don't want it. Rob.
No, I agree.
you know, there's definitely you got to commit to it because
Yes.
Mama said they'd be days like this. I mean,
Yeah. So one of the thing you're talking about how the spirits come through to you. I am interested always asking mediums and the how does what are the ways you get information? I know you see dead people attacked. I see dead people. You get that, but I mean like usually the communication isn't like, from what I understand from my own experiences, the communication isn't a dead person standing in front of you telling you stuff. It's images of sensory perceptions, feelings. Like how does it work for you?
Yeah. Oh, I wish it was easy. I wish it was as easy as
Right?
kind of like you see Ricky Gervais on Ghost Town, or something like this.
Or like Medium
it'd be
or something
phenomenal.
like that.
Yeah, but no, every spirit works with you differently. I mean, so for example, my spirit guide, my main spirit guide, Yvonne, or I'll call her Ronnie. I can normally hear her in my head, or she's a very sarcastic kind of 1940s midwife who was pretty angry at life and just made jokes about everything. Probably why she relates to me quite a lot with the sarcasm. But I can hear her voice. I can hear little comments that she'll make, or I very rarely I'll sort of see her out of the corner of my eye and she'll be pointing at something or she'll be showing me something. But most spirit that I connect to, they communicate through images, through pictures, or through my own memories. I think the spirit can only work with what we know. So if they, for example, showed me, I don't know, a yellow flower, it would be what I would have to interpret what that means to me to give to somebody else as the message. Some, surprisingly, quite a few communicate through songs or through films. I remember I was doing a seance and I kept hearing Monty Python, The Bright Side of Life, and I just started whistling it, and the woman in front of me went, "Why did you do that? Why did you do that?" And I sort of said, "Well, it's because of what I've just heard," and it was somebody relating to us. So I think a lot of the tricks that you have to kind of do when you're a medium is say what you see. Don't be afraid
no
to
filter.
Exactly. I did a psychic night with about six of these women. It was for a hen party, actually. So the prosecco was flowing and whatnot, but it was a good night. But I was looking at this one lady. It might sound a bit daft, but all I could see was this bra, this silver sparkly bra, and I was thinking to myself, Christ, how am I supposed to give that? And I said, right, I'm just going to have to give you this. And all the women around her laughed, and she went red. She just had a boob job, and this woman who was giving me this gift, this spirit woman who was giving me this gift, was laughing, and I just heard this laughter as she was waving this bra around in front of me. It was brilliant, and if I'd have just said that straight away, I'd have got the message straight away. So sometimes it can be quite challenging, really.
Well, that's what I've noticed just watching mediums work on TV. Like I know there's some that are probably not reputable, but I remember watching like John Edwards Crossing Over. It seemed like, and I read his book because I was always interested in how his ability worked, and and because of my own experiences, just trying to understand how does it work for me. Because I mean I've had some really psychic, mediumistic abilities at times, but it always seemed like he had to talk really fast, like he's getting information and he's letting it go fast. I've seen other mediums work that way. But you also hear him say, "Oh, like you said, I see a yellow flower. That means this to me." And I don't know. I experimented with tarot early on, like my 20s, as that was my first journey into trying to do psychic readings or mediumistic readings. And I always thought like it must work that way. Like, well, that's the thing. Tarot is like imagery, and you see what there's so many different meanings in one card. And you go with the meaning that you're immediately focus on. Well, that's what it's like the tarot in the brain. Is that like kind of how it works?
Yeah, exactly. And I've been reading tarot since I was 13. I remember getting my first deck and just loving it. So if I'm really struggling, I will go back to that. In my mind, I'll say, okay, give me a card, or what I teach my students is I'll ask them all what their passion is, or if somebody's obsessed with a certain TV show, I'll say, well, get a spirit to give you a character from that TV show. Point out a character, point out an episode, point out a song, and if you can work with your own passions and get your guides to help you, like enhance that, you'll get far better readings than if you do what people say in, for example, spiritualist churches who say this is the only way you can do it. You can't do it any other way, or certain people's books who say this is the only way to do it. Use what's good for you, use what works for you, and it'll be a far more successful.
Yeah, well, it seems like it's telepathy. The way the spirit communicates with you is telepathy, and it can only use what's already in here. It can't give you like a new image hardly. It's really hard for them to do. So they have to use the images you already have, your own brain, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you do get certain spirits who will give you images or will give you tunes in your head or give you something you're not aware of. And if I can't, excuse me, if I can't relay that, that's when I'll kind of go back to more of the things that I know. Because there's no point if a rocket scientist comes through to me. I don't know anything about science and technology like that, but they have to work with me and I have to work with them. So it's about kind of that partnership, really.
Yeah, the one thing that made me a believer, and I've been talking about a lot on the show, is I had an experience where I was doing psychometry basically by accident. I was holding a photo of somebody who had deceased, and I didn't know anything about them, but I ended up knowing their first name, pretty much nailed their last name, and I knew that they had been in World War II and hid all this stuff in the house from the war memorabilia, and it was later found. It was just like there was a little inner voice I could hear, but it was also like just a knowing. It was just like an instant knowing. It was one of the most powerful experiences I've had, and it made me a believer that other people can do this. That it is possible because I experienced it with no training and just out of the blue.
Yeah. No, I get that as well, definitely. It's not one of my favourite things, psychometry and remote viewing. It's not one of my favourite kind of things. I think we all, working in this industry, we all have our favourite things that we do or favourite equipment that we use. And I think people are more anxious when it comes to learning psychometry and stuff like that because they're afraid to be wrong or they're afraid that they're going to interpret this wrong or upset somebody or, so... It is possible. I personally think that I prefer working one-to-one rather than just with images or jewelry or something. It's a nice thing to enhance a reading.
I would like to learn how to do it more because it was so powerful of an instance, and the only instance I have of it. But it was so powerful, like I just knew, and it was all just like an energy that came through this one photograph. And, I'd love to be able to experiment and learn how to do that again. I never have. But, everybody had, we were talking about with our last couple guests about how everybody has different abilities and different strengths when it comes to these abilities. And mine could be that, while yours isn't. Yours is a different. Now,
absolutely,
I was going to ask, you talk about your spirit guide. I'm always interested on how a medium connects to that spirit guide, how you found out who the spirit guide was. How did you get that kind of connection to this woman that helps you communicate?
Well, originally it would just be this voice, kind of this booming voice that when I was in certain situations, certain haunted places, or through certain, when I was really afraid of certain things, I'd hear this voice, and it would be authoritative. It would be something that stood out above kind of the other voices. And as I kind of developed myself spiritually, I wanted to know more about this voice. And so I did a Ouija board session on my own, and she came through that. And she was apparently from a past life of mine. And so I kind of said, well, okay, well, I need some proof. Tell me something that happened. And apparently in my past life, I was shot outside a church. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I Googled it, I kind of researched it, and that event happened. So I was like, oh, wow. Okay, so I'm going to believe that, excuse me.
Did you end up finding her, who she was in real life at all?
I did, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Excuse me. I got who. She was a good friend. She delivered my child in a past life, so there was a big bond there, and she just chose to stick with me in this life, really, and kind of guide me in this. And I think it helps that we're quite similar in personalities. We're both kind of like just kind of common and sort of laugh a lot and make jokes a lot, and
Yeah.
I think that connection still stands in this life as it did in the last. So
the reason I asked is, like I said, I read John Edwards' his
Yeah.
book on his experiences, and he had somebody that might have been past life related that was like his main guide, and I've had other mediums tell me about their guides and stuff like that. It's always interesting because I've had my past life experience dreams, and one of them relates to another dream where I believe I have a guide. She's a black woman that I believe was a mother of mine in a past life. So that's really interesting. I mean, Rob, the people that are being seen in your house, who knows? They could, like what Darcy saw, the guy in the blue suit, or that the bald guy. It could be all past life related too.
Yeah.
And I've wondered too, like you were saying, about doing spirit boxes and this and that. I haven't really been doing that much.
No, you haven't.
Over the last couple of months and stuff. I was going on investigations. I was doing spirit boxes left and right, and I kind of, I just been kind of concentrating on working and stuff. And I'm wondering now, like especially after listening, if because I haven't been doing that stuff, it's like the opposite. It's like now
like they're mad you're not talking.
Yeah, they're like, hey, okay, we're gonna show ourselves to you.
It could be. Like I said earlier, some people just want to. If we don't acknowledge them, they're kind of going, "Oh, don't ignore me." They really kind of start showing themselves or up in the ante.
And who knows what you brought in your house? And now you're not talking to them, and now they're mad.
Yeah.
It's what I always warn people that you start doing it. Don't be surprised.
Yeah. Exactly.
If you start having weird stuff happening, because you are inviting things in. That's why I don't do it very often here. Besides being booked with guests, I only do the live ITC when I'm doing this show. I don't experiment with it at home on my own. I have a lot of friends that do. I have people that they're constantly on it. And I don't know what their activity is. I know some people have a lot of activity, but it's not something I recommend for everybody.
Yeah, I always tell people that it's not something you just want to do for like a weekend party or something.
No.
If you're gonna do this kind of stuff, it's like once you're in, you're in. As cliche as it sounds, that movie Ghost. And Whoopi Goldberg, when they found out that she could hear him, they're lined up.
Would have been as a medium. You told us about some of the readings, but would have been some of the most like, I guess, just blow your mind, like mediumistic, readings you've done. Has it been more clients, or has it been more like on investigations?
I think it's a bit of both. I remember I went to this one lady's house, and she was struggling with paranormal activity in her house. So I said, well, it's best if I come over then. I always vet people before I go to their houses, just because I want to make sure that A, I'm not wasting my time, and B, I'm not wasting their money. I'm not one of these people that if somebody says, "Oh, my floors are creaking," all right, I'll come over and I'll charge you 50 quid, just for, bottom line, it is my living. This is what I do full time, but I don't want to waste people's money. I don't want to waste people's time if it's just a creaky floorboard. But this lady, she called me over, so I went in and I started giving her a reading. I said, "There's this man here." I said, "He's really unhappy. He's pacing." I felt very uncomfortable. I said, "Can I go upstairs?" So I went. She followed me upstairs. Went to this top room. I said, "Right." I said, "This is where I want to say that somebody died here." I said, everything looked fuzzy to me. Everything felt hot and panicked, and my body was sort of shaking. And I said, "Well, something's happening here." And I described this man, and she said, "Is this him?" She showed me a photo. I said, "Yes." She went, "Well, that's my husband, and he hung himself from that banister."
Oh my God. And
I thought, "Oh, okay." I said, and so he was suffering mental illness. I says, "Well, he feels trapped here." I says, "You're holding on to him." She says, "Well, I did keep his boots, and like that he was wearing when he hung himself." And I said, "Well, it's probably a good idea to get rid of them,
Yeah.
And she says, "Well, should I get rid of this?" And she handed me his dressing gown, like his bathrobe type thing. And I said, "Well, why? And she went, well, that's the cord. That's what he hung himself with. And I was like,
Jesus. What do you think?
I was like, what are you doing? But yeah, she had a bit of a fire. But that was going back to what you say about your EVPs and stuff, your Frank's boxes and stuff like that. I was so curious about how strong this character was, and we put the Frank's box on. I said, "Come on, then, are you here?" And we both heard this distinct yes in amongst the static. And I said, "Why are you still here? Why are you still here?" And it was something inaudible that he said. But then she said, "That why did you do it?" And he went, "Because I'm an idiot." And then it just
Oh
went.
my God.
And I was like, "Whoa!" But yeah, we cleansed the house. we salted, saged, and did the whole 9 yards. And touch wood, she's been okay since. That was many years ago now, crikey. But yeah, that was possibly one of the most wow kind of readings I did there, and it was just intense. And readings can be emotional. I read for this old man. He came to the unit that I used to have, and I didn't know. He only gave me his first name, which is fine.
Yeah.
And I picked up on this girl. And I said, she's still searching she's still searching for energy to come back. And I felt really cold with her, and I felt rain. And he just started crying. And his granddaughter had been murdered, and it was like, it was just insane. It was horrible, but it was needed. He needed to know that she was still there and that she was not scared. It was, quite crazy. But those are the two that really do stick out. I think they'll always stick out. I don't remember a lot of my readings. I do so
That
many
seems
a
to be
week.
common.
So.
But that seems to be common for a lot of, like, people that do mediums, and I've had my experience with that with just reading tarot. That it's like you have like a memory wipe of what you said.
Yeah.
Like because you don't need the information. It wasn't for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I always wondered about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I had I told you about my psychometry or whatever psychometry experience. I've had a couple experiences where I've walked into where somebody died in a bad way and knew it. Like all I knew about this place was this guy had moved out, and the power, there was no power in this building and this house he owned, because he wouldn't go back. He left all of his stuff there, and I knew all I knew was a girl was murdered there. But I went in there with this candle. All I had was a candle light, and I swear the flame directed me to this pantry closet in the kitchen. And as soon as I got up to it, and the flame went like that, I had this instant knowing again, and it was just like I just saw this woman cowering as she's being pummeled by this man, like beating her. I said, was she beaten to death? And he goes, yeah, that's exactly how she died. Like, just knew that then. And there was another time I had a girlfriend in high school, and I went into her bathroom, and I got a really ice cold feeling. And I said, something really bad happened in your bathroom. She goes, oh my God, I don't want to talk about it. And found out the previous resident's son blew his brains out. And she goes and shows me, takes me into the bathroom. She goes, we can't get the blood spackle out, because they had one of those like riveted bathroom like walls, like and the blood get trapped in there. She's like, the blood, you could see the blood specks. I was like, oh, I'm never going to the bathroom in your bathroom again. Ever again. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So we do have somebody on the phone line. We've got about 5 minutes before our next commercial break, so let's see if we can take this call. Who do we got on the line? You're on the air. Who do we got? Say something.
It's Azariana, Jason. How are you tonight?
Doing good. We got about 5 minutes to commercial break. I didn't know if you had a question for our guest or.
No, I kind of did, but I'd like his opinion on something.
Yeah.
If that's possible.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Okay. I've lived in 3 haunted houses. I said in the chat, I seem to be a magnet for them. But one of the last ones that I lived in, it seems to be calling me back. It wants me back in there. And I keep telling, I go there in my dreams, and I keep telling the spirits there that, I can't live there. I don't live there anymore. You have to, go on, move on, whatever you have to do. I can't help you. I don't live there anymore. Yeah. And they're not mad, but they kind of seem sad that for some strange reason. I was wondering if he's ever had the same if he's had dreams.
That's a good
of
question.
past-
Like, is George
of the
still trying to
past
get you to come
places
back to that house?
he's lived in.
You see, I think that when spirits try and draw us back to places, it is just part of they'll have a message for you. Or you said about the dreams thing, I would be looking at kind of trying to look at interpret those dreams. There's always spirit communicate through dreams so easily, and so it's one of the best ways that they kind of do. So I would say that the reason this spirit wants you back there is to give you a part of a message, or to get closure for itself. You know.
Okay, that could be something.
Hey, Siriana,
Yeah.
how old were you when you lived
Yeah.
there and you experienced these hauntings? You know, were you a kid, or was this later in life, or?
No, well, when I lived there, you're kind of going in and out. I couldn't hear the last of that.
Well, I was asking, did you live in that house when you were a kid, or as an adult, or?
No, adult.
Okay.
Adult.
I mean, they could just, like I said, just never got a message across they're trying to, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
spirit just can't kind of let go of us.
I always thought that maybe they. Sorry, you talk.
No, it's okay. I was just saying that sometimes spirit find it hard to kind of let go of us. You know, they feel like they've had a connection with us, and therefore when we leave it, they kind of thinking, well, hang on, I'm still here. I don't want you to go yet. So sometimes they want that bit of closure.
That could be.
Maybe
That
just say
could be.
goodbye.
Yeah, I kind of got the feeling that they don't like whoever is living there now, and you know, not that maybe they liked me, but you know,
They preferred you to the new people.
maybe they agreed. Maybe they agreed with me. I don't know. But that was my comment and question. And thank you very much, Anthony. And you have a very nice
Andrew.
night.
Then Anthony Hopkins, not the, Silence of the Lambs, is going to eat your liver with some 5 beans, Anthony Hopkins. Andrew Hopkins. But Ziriana, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's been hard not to call you Anthony Hopkins.
Yes, yeah. I noticed you'd put on. I think it was on the description. You'd put Anthony Hopkins. I thought, oh, okay.
Did I?
It's not the first. Yeah, it's not the first time I've been called Anthony Hopkins.
No, it must have been a typo. As my brain's like putting it in, is that? Oh man, I am so sorry.
No, not at all. No problem.
It doesn't show me the description now. Dang it. Well, I am so sorry. I did not realize I did that.
Not a problem at all, honestly.
Well, we're going to go to our last commercial break. We'll have a half an hour left. People, you can still call into the show. We will take your calls. Tell us about your paranormal haunted experience. Are you living in a haunted house now? But when you come back, well, that's the wrong music. See, I am still getting used to this audio pad here. When we come back from this commercial break, we will take your phone calls. It'll be a short commercial break, so just hang in there, but we will be right back.
Intercepted the transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated.
I will hear it.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.com.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're gonna go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college, I've got a family to support, and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it. But to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all. But he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do voices from beyond the cold case files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Heat 'em up. Do, re, egon.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Andrew Hopkins, not Anthony Hopkins. Andrew Hopkins. I'm sorry about that typo I have in the show description. I did not realize that. Wow, my brain just went right to Silence of the Lambs, I guess, when I was typing up his names. But it's Andrew Hopkins. He's a spiritualist medium and author of Haunting on Park Road, or The Haunting on Park Road, and Next Chapter After Park Road, about his experiences growing up in a haunted house and his journey as a spiritualist medium. Where you guys can call in tonight. I love hearing these stories tonight. Rob's story about what's currently going on in his house. If you have hauntings going to your house, let's talk about it tonight. Call into the show. The phone lines are open. Let me make sure they are. Double check. Make sure. Yep, the phone lines are open. You can call in, join this wonderful conversation we're having tonight with our guest, Andrew Hopkins. But let's go ahead and get back to the show. Now, Andrew, one of the things is, growing up as a child, I had these experiences that you had. What's some advice you can give to parents that are maybe living with a kid that is, I see dead people, is having these, like, what's, I mean, you can't blame your parents for how they handled it with you. It's just normal, especially for that time period. But now we're more enlightened age, and maybe more parents are opening up to this idea. Well, how should a parent deal with that?
Well, I'm a dad to 3 kids. My eldest, particularly, right. She's just turned 8. Actually, she was 8 on the 13th. So yeah, it's yesterday for me. She was 8 yesterday, and she remember the very first time that I knew that she was aware. I used to work in a care home for people who had learning difficulties. And I had to bring my daughter in because I had to sign some paperwork one day, and we were up in this room upstairs there with my manager at the time as well. And she just kind of crawled up to this door, and she went, "Dad," and I went, "Yes, Dad," and she went, "Dead," and she pointed to this like just the doorway, and she went, "Dead." And I was like, "Yes, darling, yeah, he is." But it made me laugh because I thought, geez, now I've got this on my plate. But my advice, honestly, it depends on people's beliefs, because I know that even today spirit can be a taboo subject, depending on religious beliefs and own personal beliefs. But I don't think that you should ever discourage it. I think that you need to reassure your children that these things aren't here. Majority of the time they're not here to hurt you, and I think encouraging them to talk about what they see or what they feel or how something's making them feel. My best advice is always to be open and to be honest about things, because if not, you're going to end up kind of not only cutting this child's natural connection off, but you're also going to make them think, well, crikey, I can't confide in you because you think I'm crazy, and I think that's something that is teaching your kid to close off, and that, me personally, I think that's got a lot of psychological negatives about for. There's
repercussions.
Absolutely, there is, and there's nothing wrong with it. And like I said, 9 out of 10 times I think that spirit won't hurt you. They won't really have the energy to do that. But if you're afraid of them, if you're afraid to tell what's happening or afraid to tell what you're feeling, that spirit is then going to feed on that fear, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse before you've got kind of this big haunting that you could have avoided just by allowing your kid to and giving them some belief.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Especially if it's something that's going to feed off negative energy, and if this kid doesn't have anybody to talk to, it's just going to get more scary for him.
Yeah.
I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I'll never forget my oldest son when he was younger. We were doing ITC down in my basement. I was like early on just beginning to experiment with it, and I was in the house, and I come up. I had a bad feeling, and I said, I got to stop. And I go upstairs, and I find him hiding under his table in his bedroom. And he's like, I just saw a woman, or I just saw a little girl and a man, and he gave me descriptions of them. And I knew who he was what spirits he was talking about. I don't want to get a whole story about that, but I said, okay, I believe you, and said I don't think they were here to hurt you. They were, just curious, maybe because Daddy was doing something he wasn't supposed to. We got somebody on the phone line. I don't know if they just hung up and recall back in, so I want to make sure we get them in case they're having any issues. We got somebody on the phone line. Who do we got?
Hi, Jason, can you hear me?
I hear you. I hear a lot of noise.
Yeah, there's a lot of static on the phone. I've tried 3 times to call in. It's Turquoise Diva.
Hey, Turquoise, I'm actually hearing like a lot of banging and stuff. Like banging, that fuzz noise. Now it's gone.
Okay, you're really scaring me now.
You guys heard it, right?
I
like
didn't.
banging.
Oh my gosh. Oh. Andrew, nice to meet you. Lovely show. I've been enjoying the show.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Nice to meet you too.
Yes, sir. I have a question. Gosh, you guys are scaring me now.
Sorry.
I've been targeted and harassed online for like the last 2 weeks on a social media group by a group that call themselves Satan worshipers.
Oh, geez.
And they've been relentless. And I saved my house. I've lit a white candle for protection.
Yeah.
I even asked Archangel Michael to protect me. And when I was having the white candle going, the flame was acting strange. I think maybe it was my mother trying to communicate that they were protecting me. But I've had I don't want anything bad. I don't want demons after me. Is there anything else I can do to protect myself from these people?
The biggest things that I use for protection is I always wear something silver because I personally see that is a big protective thing. I always have my silver necklace on. But are you experiencing anything other than are you experiencing any other negatives around the house? Any other signs that there's anything happening?
The only thing, I've been having nightmares like crazy, but I don't know if these people are for real or if they're 13-year-olds hiding behind a keyboard trying to just threaten somebody.
Well, the thing is, to me, honestly, I would probably say that there is nothing to worry about what they're doing. But what they are doing is they're kind of creating this negative energy in your own mind, and that's what can then draw in the negative energies. And the thing is, if there's a spirit attached to this negative energy that's kind of seeing you're afraid, they're going to feed on what your fear is when it comes to what these people are doing. So I think the best thing you can do with that is do kind of a grounding with yourself. So sit yourself down with your white candles on, invite your mother, invite any spirits that any guides and inspirers to help you. And I always envision a big light, a big protective ball of light above my head, and with every breath that I take in, it kind of sinks lower and lower, and it just fills me up. And then when you're ready to when you've kind of manifested this light within you so brightly until you feel it's ready, then you just literally open your eyes and stretch and push that light all the way out. And that's got quite a good hit rating, to be fair. That's something that I'd recommend 100 times. I really would.
Wow, brilliant. Thank you so much. I feel so much better. I appreciate you giving me your opinion.
Hey,
that's good.
I have a little advice that worked for somebody I know was going through kind of like a negative attack that was given to him by somebody who was into the kind of like juju, like stuff to protect him. And he says this worked, and it was really weird how it worked too. He told him to get tinfoil and kosher salt, and to wrap it into a square, and put these little kosher salt squares in the corners of your rooms, and it should discharge that energy. And my friend swears to God this worked. It stopped the activity. And he said you would see. He told him you would only replace them, like leave them in the corners, but you only replace them when they turn brown or dark, and from absorbing basically a negative attack or energy.
Yeah,
and
then that's going way out there.
Yeah. If you were thinking about something, if you were worried about something more on a demonic sort of front, then something like that I'd say, or using garlic salt is a good one as well. Wrapping it in foil and putting it in your corners of your house.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try that too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, stay safe.
Yeah, take care.
Satanist online, great, like the TikTok witches. Look what the internet's done.
Yeah, people just take people's fears. As soon as somebody says Satan, they're like, and people use that fear to manipulate people. It's awful.
Oh yeah,
it really is.
But I do believe we were
that fear.
Yeah, exactly, Jamie. But I also feel like when people direct negative thoughts or energy to you, if you're sensitive to it, it does impact you.
Yeah,
we were talking about this just recently.
It's also how much you believe and how much you're going to allow to come in.
True.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The intent and belief. It's a powerful force. It
The
really is.
intent is everything.
Yeah.
But like I'm saying, like, like I've always had an issue with people have like negativeness towards me or bad thoughts towards me, even if they're not telling me. It makes me sick to my stomach. I have trouble being around them. And I think that can go on a broader perspective. And somebody, even from a distance, has got this extreme hate for you. It can send negative vibes to you and bad things.
You deflect it back.
That's what I think the kosher salt and the tinfoil is like. It's a reflective back of the energy. That's the symbolism.
But in your mind too, you have to like visualize it and just like picture it bouncing off of you.
Yeah.
Do you run across people being feeling like they're being cursed or attacked like that often?
Not often. I mean, that kind of thing is very few and far between. I always like to kind of get, if somebody thinks they're under a personal attack by a spirit or the paranormal, I'll always want as many details as I can, because
of course,
different. I mean, and unfortunately, I do feel that a lot of the time it is from people planting a seed of negative. I remember walking along the promenade at Blackpool, and this gypsy walks up to me with this Lucky Heather, and I was possibly about 8, and I laughed at her because she was speaking weird, and she was chasing me with what looked like a weed wrapped in tinfoil, and I just sort of laughed, and she muttered this curse at me. And I just laughed, and this curse never took hold of me, because I think it's in the belief, it's in the intent. If you believe that you're being cursed, you will suffer negative actions.
It's like a placebo effect, or
yeah.
I mean, psychologically, people are really deep down. If they believe it, it's going to scare the crap out of them, and it could have negative reactions. We had a guest on a couple years ago. I mean, it changed her whole life. She was in Jamaica, and she got like cursed by like a real like full-on witch doctor, and she didn't believe it or anything, and all this negative stuff started happening, and it changed her life. So I believe there's a real like presence. If somebody's got the power and enough negative thought, there's a dark side, that can
negative
affect
can manifest, but the same as positive can manifest, which is why, again, with the envisioning of the light, or inviting an archangel, or inviting your spirit guides, or inviting somebody who you feel will protect you, if you've got the intent there and the belief that it's going to help.
The hardest thing for me is that I don't know what to tell clients sometimes when they are dealing with stuff that's negative. I always tell them you need to take control. You need to have authority. I swear by it. Under my own personal experiences, you need to let go of the fear and take authority. But sometimes I want to tell them, just get mad. I mean, like, don't give in to the fear. I'd rather you be angry about it than. But I don't know if that's the best advice either, because I know there's things that feed off of anger. But I do know it can make it go away if you like take that authority and let go of the fear, even if you let it turn to anger.
Yeah. See, there was a time at Park Road where this thing really kind of had hold of me, of my mum, and she was struggling at the time. She like, this force was over her, and I remember it was the very first time I really stood up to a spirit, and I just shouted. I shouted no, and in my mind I wanted that thing to be gone, and as soon as I shouted it and got angry, this thing lifted and she could move again.
Yeah, you let go of the fear and you took control. You got angry. It's like, don't touch my mother. I do think that helps.
I'd agree.
But I also think that's why you got to be careful, because if you don't know what you're dealing with, that anger could be exactly what it wanted. I'm saying? I do know there are situations where these things feed off of anger. Like, they get people in fights, places that seem to be cursed to break people up, and, just they feed off of any kind of negative energy. They'll take the anger along with the fear. So it's hard for me to, like, basically, I try to get across to people is just take control. Don't let it control you. Don't let the fear control you. Especially, you got to cut off its energy supply.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that, definitely.
I mean, I even tell people not to watch scary movies in their house. If they're going out, I said, just the things you should avoid, while you're going through this is don't be watching horror movies. Don't be watching Ghost Hunters or something that's going to make that skin prickle. Like, it's going to give you that little fear, because if it's feeding off it, it's going to be right there going, oh, yeah, watch Chainsaw Massacre 2 now. Oh, yeah. Like it's getting off the fear. Of course, I love Chainsaw Massacre 2. It's more hilarious than it's scary. But people get scared. And watching these things, I have had instances where people said, I was watching this movie. I'm like, what were you watching? And to find out it's a scary movie, like, but that doesn't know. I'm like, no, it's not that I'm doubting you because you watched a scary movie. I think this thing reacted to your fear from the movie. You just gave it unintentionally, gave it energy.
Yeah. After every kind of house cleansing that I do, I'll always tell people, right, now, whatever you do, enjoy tonight, have a bit of a party, have some drink, have a sing song, do something that brings in positive energy. Whatever you do, don't kind of argue, don't set tension or conflict in the house. Don't watch something that's going to freak you out, because it's a blank canvas and it's whatever you put on that now, celebrate, have fun, cuddle, do whatever you want to do, but as long as it's positive, because that's what you need to.
I always have faith that.
Oh, I thought you were talking, Jamie. Jamie,
No,
sorry,
I was
Jamie.
answering Debbie on the voice.
I know. I got you. I'm sorry, Jamie. I was like, what, Jamie? Alan, I know you're in Korea and it's a long distance call and we got like 13 minutes left, but I'd love to hear that story. Shouting does work. I yelled at a Korean poltergeist because he's in South Korea, and it immediately stopped. I'd love to hear that story.
Again,
Alan.
it's the energy. Yeah, it's the powerful
long
energy. You
distance
see.
Yeah, exactly. But like I said, it's the cave and Dagobah. You got to be a little bit careful with some of these things. What you give at it, you might get back. Get anger, you might get anger back from it too. All things are possible, and I got to tread carefully when giving people advice as an investigator. You got to kind of like explore all the avenues. One of the ones that I've had some of the most negative with, and I really could not do investigations in either case because of it. But boy, I could have probably got activity. But it just wasn't worth it. Was when alcohol was involved with a male figure in the home, like an alcoholic. There was definitely activity going on, but you can't get that person to stop drinking to honestly investigate, and it's too dangerous of a situation. But boy, was it fueling some negative energy in these homes.
Well, yeah. You see, intoxication, it definitely can alter the energy. The night where we had John trying to threaten us all, he was wasted, and that just kind of emphasized the energy. It gave power to the spirit that was with us. So.
Oh, see, I'm one of those people. I'm not much of a drinker, and I've always had bad feelings around a lot of bars. Like, I feel like there are spirits that were alcoholics in their life that are hanging around for that next. They still want that fix of that drink, and they're getting it from people in these bars. I swear people pick up spirits sometimes from these bars. I don't know. It's a theory of mine, and that's maybe my explanation why I don't like bars or the feeling I get from them.
Yeah,
See, I'm hearing that noise.
I think some. I think
that's from
some. Was it?
Do you have noises?
No, I didn't have any.
I'm sorry. It was the same noises when who was it? It was when Turquoise Diva called in. It's like banging and stuff. I'm sorry. I heard it again. I'm like, okay, is Turquoise on the line? No. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
The paranormal happens live here, people. I don't know if it's paranormal.
I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking for about 3 hours, and about 2.5 hours in, there was this beeping noise from my bedroom, and it was one of my trigger objects from my ghost hunting kit, and it should have been in the box, because I brought the box out. And I was showing the lady who I was doing the podcast with, and it wasn't in there, and it was actually on top of my wardrobe, which it shouldn't have been there.
It's like, we're ready to talk. We do have a phone call, and this might be Alan. Okay. I don't know. Who do we got on the line? Just called in. Who we got? Hello.
Hey, this is Alan Korea.
Oh, Alan. Hey. Yes, all right. Tell me about a Korean poltergeist.
Oh, this is a good one. Okay. My children were visiting me. This is a long time ago when they were still little. And we were staying in a Korean hotel who had the name Korea Hotel. Anyways, it was Friday night, and one of the great things about Korea is street food. Street food is just awesome over here. So I told my two children, my wife was out somewhere else. And told my two children, I'll be back in a little bit. I'm going to go downstairs, get some. Do you know what yakimandu is? It's meat dumplings that are fried.
Sounds good.
Really, really delicious.
Yeah.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. So I'm walking from my room to the elevator. I hear my 2 kids screaming, like, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," right? So I run back to the room. I turn on the room. Now, this is a long time ago when they still had potentiometer TVs, where the volume control is the potentiometer.
Yeah.
Click, analog, volume up, down, click. It was going on and off. Full volume, down, click, off, click, on, full volume, and so forth. They had a fan on the ceiling that a lot of Korea hotel rooms have, that it is forcing about a 45 degree angle down, and it's got a super long pull cord so you can get it from your bed. And it was going click, fan on, click, fan off, click, fan on, click, fan off. Okay, and the third thing was the lights were doing the same thing. So you got all 3 of these things going on at the same time.
Wow.
And I lost it. I just lost it. I go, blankety blank blank, leave my kids alone. And it stopped.
Yep. It worked.
It just literally stopped.
Wow.
Now, here's the funny thing. So I go down to the hotel desk, right? And I can't remember the room that I stayed in. I think it was like 602, something like that. Let's just use that. So I go to the Korean clerk. I said, I want to talk about room 602. That's all I said. I want to talk about room 602. And he goes, no ghost 602.
No ghosts in 602. You were breaking up there because you're come from Korea, but you said no ghosts in 602?
He said, okay, can you hear? Here, let me get I'm on speaker. Let me take that off.
Okay.
Is this better?
No, I think it's your signal.
Okay, just a second. Anyway, so he goes, no ghost 602.
Oh.
And I go, wait a minute. And I go, you put me in a room that you know that's haunted. I said, I want to upgrade. I want a different room right now. And they did it. They gave me a better room.
They knew.
So that's my story.
Well, you're breaking up, Al, but thank you so much for calling in from South Korea to tell us that. That's awesome. I love hearing ghost stories from other countries like that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, take care, buddy. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Sometimes he calls in. Usually it's a good signal, and I've always been like, wow, South Korea, that's a pretty good signal. This time it was like, no, you're not telling this story. Coming through. And I was like, don't break up. This is awesome. And just to hear that,
every hotel seems to have that one room, don't they? This one floor or this one room that people just don't want to go on.
Like The Shining with the naked woman in the bathtub.
Yeah, exactly. I stayed in this coaching inn called the White Lion. My auntie was the landlady, and it was room 6 was always the scary room. And I stayed in there, and I stayed in there with a friend of mine. And she was asleep in one bed, and I was asleep in this other one. And I woke up at about 3 a.m, and there was this. I thought my friend was standing up, and she was in this white robe. And I just said, "You all right?" And then I looked at the bed, and my friend was still asleep. So I thought, "Oh, let's just cover my head and go to sleep."
Exactly. I'll never forget. I mean, everybody in my town that knows me knows what I'm into, even before I did this show. And it was even before I did the show. I had a guy I barely knew. He knew me through other people. Call me up. He was like, where was he? He was in Tennessee at a hotel. They were on a construction job, and they were all booked up in this hotel. And he's calling me frantic, like what Al was describing, kind of stuff happening in their room.
Yeah.
Like they're seeing full body apparitions too. And like, what do we do? What do I do? And I'm like, well, luckily you don't live there, and you'll be leaving tomorrow, right? Yeah, that's what you do. You leave. I don't know what else you can do. Yeah. Leave right now. I mean, you're not going to stop at whatever's there. It's going to be there. Yeah, sleep in your car. Yeah. They were freaked out. Hotels, you never know. You never know what you're going to get. Now, for you, your website is paranormalchasers.com. You have a blog on there, correct?
Yeah, I do. I have 2 entries in my blog. I really need to get back on it.
Do people contact you for investigations or readings through that website?
And people can contact me through the website. You can find me on Facebook. If you search for The Haunting on Park Road, that I'm on there. You message me through that, or you can just go through the website, either one. I do try and get back to everybody.
And what are your plans here for the future? Do you got another book in the works? You got the 2. Are you going to be working on another?
Yeah, I mean, I've got the 2 books out at the moment. I'm working on the 3rd, and I'm also going to do kind of a how-to, guidance on sort of opening up spiritually, and the do's and don'ts that I've found useful, just to give people a little bit of a handbook kind of thing.
Yeah, like I said, I'm kind of getting back to my life where I'm wanting to look into my own abilities again.
Yeah.
I've been talking about it for years on this show, but I really am. I really am interested in developing this, because I've had all these experiences, and we've had a lot of guests on recently talking about development parts of it.
Yeah.
So I'd be really interested in having you back on to talk about psychic ability development or mediumistic ability development. It's a huge subject, and I know a lot of people in my audience. Obviously, they have a lot of these abilities too, and want to develop them.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to kind of run through some techniques and kind of give you a helping hand from what you need there. I mean, I have a development group every week, and we've been on Zoom and stuff at the moment doing it. But I'd be more than happy to kind of come back on and give you some guidance on that.
Yeah, and like I said, we also do the live. Besides live ITC, one of the shows we haven't done in a long time, I know, is our psychic game night, where we just have fun, just doing a little bit of readings, or doing even the Zener cards, and just doing different things to just have fun with it. No judgments if you get stuff wrong, kind of deal. I'm looking for other ways, new games for it. New ways we can kind of test our abilities. So we should have one of those coming up hopefully soon. I'm coming up with like I said, I want to come up with some really good development exercises for it. So any input you got on that too would be great.
Yeah, no, definitely, absolutely. I'm more than happy to help out. It's I do enjoy helping people get into their spiritual zones. So
yeah, I mean, and I always say this is where the paranormal happens live. We would like to do these things live on the show. That's why I do the show live. I don't do a podcast because I want the paranormal to be kind of live for people, happen real. So we got to get back to doing that. And if we do an ITC show, the next one I get to do, I will let you know if you want to come on.
Yeah.
Be our little psychic battery. If you feel the ITC
anytime,
communication.
100%. I'd be there for you, definitely.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. You can get your books on Amazon. Obviously, I saw if you're Kindle, you have the whatever.
Yes, Kindle Unlimited.
Unlimited, you can get them for free, and
Yes.
I got to get my wife to move some books out of her things so I can read.
Well,
So yeah,
do
you
let
can
me
get
know
free
what
with
you
that.
think as well. Do let me know, because
Yeah.
I always like to hear feedback and whatnot. So yeah,
I really want to read about your childhood experiences there with George, because the stuff you're saying was giving me goosebumps, because it's very reminiscent of my experiences with the shadow person. So thank you so much, Andrew, for being on the show. That's it,
It's a
guys.
genuine pleasure.
Again, time goes by fast, Andrew. You were an excellent
does.
guest.
The sun's
Speaking
up
of
here
that-
now as well.
Oh yeah, all the way across the pond in England. Yes, thank you for staying up with us.
It's okay. You're welcome.
But that's it for the show, guys. We will be back next Sunday. Our guest is another psychic paranormal investigator, John Russell. We're going to be talking with him. He's also an author. Next Sunday, I don't think he's doing readings either, but we're going to talk about his investigations and his abilities. Next Sunday, same bad time, same bad channel, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific time. Thank you to everybody who subscribes and follows us on YouTube, Facebook, and now on Twitch. And also thank you to all the Patreons. Your $2 a month donation does help pay the bills. If you want to subscribe to us on Patreon, you can type in Paranormal Soup, Jason Bland, you'll find it. Rob usually shares the links in the description. I don't know if that's it. Oh, that's a Haunted Road. That's a good link too. But you can find it in the description of the show, which I spelled our guest's name wrong and put Anthony Hopkins, not that one. But it's in that description. Subscribe, $2 a month. Patreon does help pay the bills, and I thank you to all of our patrons. But big thanks to everybody who shares the show out. Keep telling your friends about Paranormal Soup, an open place and forum where you can talk about the paranormal with no judgments. All of us are free to put our notes together, share our stories, so we can figure out what is going on. Why is it all Paranormal Soup? All right, guys, thanks for watching. See you next week. Have a great night.